Good evening and welcome to the December 12th board meeting of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call in recognition of visitors. Ms. Schliest.
This evening's visitors include Alan Hallquist, Larry Powell, Steve Baker, Gary Crabb, Jean Anderson, Laura Smith Everett, Dennis Batliner, Roberta Eveslage, Clint Anderson, and Suzanne Arrowwood.
Thank you and welcome to our Board of Trustees meeting. Awards and recognitions. Dr. Sopcich.
Dr. Cook, there are no awards or recognitions tonight.
Okay. Next item is the open forum on the agenda. The open forum section of the board agenda is a time for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during each regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless a significant number of people plan to speak. In that instance, the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door at each board meeting prior to the open forum agenda item. When addressing the board, registered speakers are asked to remain at the podium, should be respectful and civil, and are encouraged to address individual personnel or student matters directly with the appropriate college department. As a practice, the college does not respond in this setting when the matter concerns personnel or student issues or matters that are being addressed through the established grievance or suggestion processes or are otherwise the subject of review by the college of the board. We have 4 registered speakers this evening. So when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. First is Jay Moyer, please.
Just right here?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and distinguished board members, I have come to tonight's Board of Trustees meeting seeking answers to an issue that has come to my attention both as a taxpayer in Johnson County and as a student at Johnson County Community College. I am someone who believes in the fairness and equality of a democratic system. My concern is about how the board operates. I would like to ask about the board officer and committee selection process. As you are aware, when you run for a spot on the JCCC Board of Trustees, you don't run as a Democrat or a Republican. You run for a nonpartisan position with no affiliation. That being said, it seems as though there is still a struggle for power on the board. For years, the same 2 people have sat in the position of the chairmanship of the board, switching back and forth, not sharing the power of the committee equally with all elected officials. We also can see this in the board committees. If I could, I'd love to pose a question. What policies are in place in regards to selecting not only board officer positions, but also committee members? In keeping with the equality of democracy, I want to impose the seriousness of making sure that all board members serve in committee positions at equal rates, all getting a chance to chair, all getting a chance to serve and do the job they were elected to do. These choices should also reflect the student body that it represents. When you look at enrollment rates at Johnson County Community College, 56% of the students this semester were female. The board should reflect this statistic to the best of their ability, despite the fact that fewer women serve on the board. Let me read a list of recommendations made by 2 members of this year's board for next year's committees. First, I'll start with the women and where it's recommended that they serve. Board offices, Secretary, Nancy Ingram. Board committees, Management Committee, Laura Smith Everett. HR, Nancy Ingram, Chair, Laura Smith Everett. Now, let me read the list of the men. Board officers, Greg Musil, Chair. Paul Snyder, Vice Chair. Lee Cross, Treasurer. Committees, Management, Jerry Cook, Chair. Paul Snyder. Learning Quality Committee, Jerry Cook, Chair. Lee Cross. Audit Committee, Greg Musil, Chair. Paul Snyder. Collegial Steering Committee, Greg Musil, Chair, Paul Snyder. So of the 15 available committee and officer positions, 11 of them are held by men. That's almost 75% of the people making decisions on the board. 3 women serve on the 7-member Board of Trustees, and while they are supposed to represent over half of the student body, 2 of them only make up roughly a quarter of represented positions and decision-making spots. This most certainly violates your own diversity regulations that are being put into the search for a new president here at JCCC, and it is outrageous that on a nonpartisan board, The decision has been made to completely shut out one elected member of this board who arguably should most definitely be a part of the decision-making process. On the topic of equality and diversity, I want to call into question the integrity of the selection process because as a member of the LGBTQ+ community, a minority community which currently has no representation on this governing body whatsoever, I want to make sure that the members of the board who are making decisions are making them fairly and with every student at JCCC in the front of their minds. I question whether or not, when the time arises, if this board will truly advocate for me and my community when it comes time to make decisions about such issues in regards to the school. I want to give the entire Board of Trustees the benefit of the doubt in regards to representing the student body well. So in the coming years, please prove me correct. I beg of you, no matter who is in charge, be proactive about protecting JCCC students who are members of minority communities. In the words of United States House Representative from Texas, Al Green, on the floor of the House today, those who tolerate hate perpetuate hate. I beg we not be so blind. A college is a place to extend to young adults like myself the equal opportunities of learning and education, and this will only be successful if the governing body of the school is legislating fairly and equally. I urge the board to reconsider the selection of the officers and committee members by allowing the women on this board more opportunities to serve in both officer and committee positions. I encourage this board to realize that I am a part of the body you are representing. I have the power to accurately paint a negative or positive picture to the public about how well you're legislating, but even without my help, the public will see for themselves the decisions you make in the coming months. Take my recommendations and think about them. I hope to see action in the near future regarding these issues, and it will be interesting to see what you choose to do. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. We will be dealing with that item later in our agenda.
But, Mr. Chair, I will have comments in response to that at the time we do the nominating committee, because I think the picture painted there is unfair to this board and the leadership positions that
I would
women
ask you
had
to
in the
make
last
those
2
comments
years.
at that time.
Hope
Dennis
Mr. Moore stays
Batliner.
around.
Dennis Batliner, you're next.
Good evening. First, the important stuff. Happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and I hope everyone has a great New Year.
Thank you.
All this other stuff really isn't that important. Well, maybe a little. Couple of things. The first one's very short. I saw on the agenda the Learning Quality Committee report talks about a plan for restricting public access to the board packets. This starts in January. I don't know where that's going to go, whether it's actually going to happen. It seems odd to me that, and concerning, that would be put forth. I don't know of any other local government entities that find a need to do that, so I don't know why you would need to do it here. But I just hope you make the right decision on that. The most important thing I have to speak about is the now perennial issue of the track, or loss of the track. I sent an email prior to the management committee meeting last week asking to include in the fiscal year 2020-21 budget building a new outdoor track and reinstating the track and cross-country programs. I understand that some of the emails may have gone to recipients' junk mail, which may explain why I got no response from anyone in the administration. According to Chairman Cook's reply, which I appreciate, to President Sobchak and I, the administration would need to make the recommendation to the board for consideration of my proposal. And although Save JCC Track Group barely said anything about this issue in the past year, it repeatedly came up during the trustee elections, so it's not gone away at all. The Johnson County community is still very unhappy about this, and for good reason. Not only because valid explanations were never given for eliminating the track and the running programs, but because taxpayers were promised. They were promised back in October of 2016 when you voted on the facilities master plan. The $103 million plan had a track in it. And then suddenly, it and the programs just quietly disappeared. And the track that was taken out, you would also presume that the programs would be there because they were primary users of that track. So the expectation was there was going to be a new track somewhere on campus and there were going to be programs to use those tracks. So now, after all this time of negativity, it's a chance to turn some things into positives. The college has the resources to spend. We know that. It's been stated here publicly. We all know it. There's plenty of reserves. There's plenty of money coming in. The recent property valuation projection indicates an increase of over $1 million in addition to what was planned on the 5-year projection shortly ago. So there's plenty of money floating around here. The other thing is that this would allow a whole new outlook on programs, not just track, but other athletic, other programs possibly throughout the college. There's no reason they can't be operated more efficiently, much less cost. There doesn't have to be for scholarships for athletes. They can be very minimal. They don't need to be full scholarships. You can reduce that way down. You can reduce the fees for students on that way down. There's all kinds of things that can happen if you want them to happen. And I don't see any reason that we can't use the great college facilities we have here and the educational possibilities, use that to bring students here, not scholarships for athletes. I'm not saying they shouldn't get something, because they do a lot. And if you look at track and field athletes, most of them compete 3 seasons a year, not 1 like most sports. But that's not necessary, I don't think, to give a lot of money out in scholarships for student athletes, since that's been a concern of yours in the past. So if we promote the excellence in the facilities here, you can bring students, and you need students because your attendance has been going down for, 6 years in a row? So the bottom line is, I asked before, and I ask now again because I didn't get a response, for you to include in the fiscal year 2020-21 budget building a new outdoor track and beginning the running programs again. They started one time, just like everything here is started at one time, it can start again. The sooner you do it, the better for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Any questions or comments?
Well, we don't usually comment back and forth. in
You
this
have
session.
in the past, so I'm just asking.
But I will say that, first of all, on the budget development,
Right.
the budget plan that we have, we do activate that tonight on some assumptions, but there's time to amend that as we go forward. But
Exactly.
I think that all of the budget items that come before the college are administrative-driven, and we will visit with administration about that plan. We as an example, we used to have aviation here. Aviation was in this college when we started the college 50 years ago. As recently as 2 weeks ago, I was approached by people who would like to have an aviation program put back in. And there are other programs that people request. So the process should be going back through administration. We'll review that, go back to the 16 plan and give that some consideration.
So you are going to revisit the plan?
We will revisit to see what that whole process was in 16 and where we may be able to go.
Should I expect a timeline, communication?
I'll get back to you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item, Roberta Eversledge.
Forever, I'm charged.
13.
My name is Roberta Everslage. I live at 8513 Bridal Dale, Lenexa, Kansas. I am, what else do I need to tell you? What I want to talk to you about is the sound system in this room. I come here by behest of the League of Women Voters. I am a retired teacher from the Johnson County from Johnson County Community College, and I come here every month, and many of you already have seen me before. My concern is specifically that there's a range of difference in the room in terms of how well the material is heard in here. I often have trouble listening to the speaker here when I sit out here, and I have little trouble with it over on that side of the room. I do think that the feeling I have about it is that it should be a little more equalized, and there probably is the ability to do that in this room, because it's not a big place, and there are probably some places that more speakers could be presented or be put up. So the hearing varies to me significantly. The other thing I have problems with is when the chair announces who is going to be talking. That is sometimes very quickly identified in such a way that if you didn't know who that person was, you wouldn't be able to know what they do here. And I think that's important. We have an audience, when we have a TV audience too, I understand, which theirs depend on their own home stuff. But it's just something that I've come across, and I would just appreciate a little better sound quality. Do you have any questions?
We don't, but we'll have the staff review that. I don't sit out in the different spots, so I don't hear what the sound issues are. And I know that some trustees speak louder than others. Some speakers at the podium speak louder than others, and that has a lot to do with it. But we'll review our speaker system and see how that can be improved.
Okay. Super.
Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you for your service.
Clint Anderson.
You're talking about Trustee Musil? He's louder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow trustees. I'm Clint Anderson. I live about a mile away from here at 115th and Flum, thereabouts, 11341 Renee Street in Olathe. I've got about 5 minutes of prepared remarks. I have a hard copy to leave behind with you all. I've got 7 copies, or 8 copies actually, so I want to make sure that these get distributed, but I'd like to just again have that as a leave behind item. My family and I are big fans of this campus and this institution. Ma'am, they'd be able to hear better if I'm the only one talking in the room. We're fans of this institution as a great community resource. We take advantage of this college. My family and I, being my wife and 2 sons, we enjoy coming to concerts here, presentations. We've been to a couple of athletic events, and we really like the Nerman Museum. It's a great community asset. I'm proud to advocate for the Nerman Museum. And I've done so to my friends throughout the metro area, including those who don't think there's any culture south of Shawnee Mission Parkway. I've been happy to tell them otherwise. Recently, and I should note also that I'm an art museum kind of guy, particularly with my 15-year-old son. We like to visit art museums around the country. We've been to many of the great art museums in this country from coast to coast, as well as a few abroad. So again, I speak to you as an advocate for the arts. Recently, I wanted to visit the Nerman with my 15-year-old son, and I went online to see what the special exhibit was, and it was at this point that my plans changed. The special exhibit, the feature exhibit, which began in late November and runs right through the holiday season until early March, as you may or may not know, is titled Queer Abstraction. The subtitle online says that this exhibition features the work of 20 artists who create abstract art to convey the complexities of sexuality and gender identity in the 21st century. Again, this being at our taxpayer-funded public museum. The description goes on as follows: alternative identities, desires, and communities are explored through the artist's manipulation of color, form, texture, and materials, et cetera, et cetera. Queer abstraction invites all visitors to leave preconceived notions of the body, sex, gender, and love behind and discover abstraction's queer possibilities. So at this point, I had a couple of general questions to myself. The first is, what actually is queer? Now, I understand what LGBT is. That's become common in the American lexicon, but I didn't quite understand what queer was and how that was different and needed to be advocated at this public institution. And then my second set of questions is to ponder, and I'd like you to do the same, is what preconceived notions, in fact, am I being asked to leave behind at this publicly funded institution? Being asked to leave behind notions about the body, about sex, about gender, about love. So I'd ask you to ponder that for a moment. I do have preconceived notions in this area. I don't happen to believe that having a blank slate on these topics is beneficial for society. I believe that there are tried and true formulas for human happiness regarding sexuality and love. I believe that the starting point for such things begins with monogamy, for example. Generally speaking, I don't think that straying from these foundational principles is beneficial for society or individuals. And frankly, I resent that it's being funded and advocated by my tax dollars, and I'm going to underscore that point in a little bit. I did visit the museum. I visited on my own. Generally speaking, I found most of the special collection to be interesting and enjoyable, taken on its own merits. It's interesting modern art, and I like modern art. I'm happy to report that the pieces are not pornographic or generally overtly erotic. But we can't just let art be art in this case. It has to convey sexual messages of a bizarre and sometimes aggressive nature. Not just LG, but in fact, queer. So, in fact, I asked the very nice docent, what makes the collection queer? She told me that all of the artists are gay. I didn't ask, but I did wonder, but are they queer? Now, I kind of feel like a smart aleck asking that rhetorical question, but I think it's a legitimate question, right? That's the whole point of the exhibition. It's a queer exhibition. So I want to emphasize a few things at this point. So I am offended that my tax dollars are being spent in this manner, but I'm not shocked by the exhibit. There's nothing new under the sun, and there is no art that will shock me, okay? The second point is that some of the more extreme artists are just very juvenile in their need to push their art through the lenses of deviant sexual behavior. And to this end, I want to briefly pause and quote for you from a couple of the placards. And again, I'll have you have this for leave behind material. So one of the artists named Prem Sahib had a piece made out of ceramic tile, and it says, outerwear it's called, reflects upon the distinction between public and private spheres. The tile used to create the work are a type commonly used in public restrooms or locker rooms, gendered spaces that can be the site of private queer desires. Your tax dollars at work. Next piece, kind of interesting, piece titled New Horny Sun Vision. It notes that this painting was made specifically for this exhibition. He addresses his queer sexuality through abstract pictures that employ the sigil coding system of an English occultist, Mr. Austin Spare. And Mr. Spare believed that in order for the desire to materialize, the sigils have to be changed, S-I-G-I-L, if I'm pronouncing that right. This is accomplished either through meditation or by adding semen to them during the moment of orgasm. I know this seems rather untoward, but this is the feature exhibit on the main floor of our museum that we're paying for, okay? The artist, so now back to the artist is painted according to his own queer sensibilities onto large canvas drop cloths featuring sigils, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really want to think about that, to be honest with you. And then it tells us lastly that the piece features motifs including curving S shapes that are queer or polymorphic icons for tails, penises, anal furrows, whatever that is, pubic hairs, tree branches, and snake tongues. That's interesting. The last piece, just one sentence that I'll cite. This gentleman says his work reflects on Catholicism and its condemnation of queer sexuality. He then suggests the incarnational consciousness of Catholicism creates a very receptive environment for queerness. Now, incarnational consciousness, that's referring to the body of Christ. I think it's reasonable that some of our citizens who are subsidizing this museum might find that offensive, okay? I would be one of them. So I don't know if you've visited the museum or not, but I just wanted to give you those excerpts. And I want to emphasize that I'm a great believer in treating everybody with dignity and respect. I can't underscore that strongly enough. And I want to be treated with dignity and respect from everybody else. We don't all have to agree on sexual ethics in order to have a polite and dignified society. But we should desire to have a polite and dignified society. Pushing sexual behavior of any sort into taxpayer-funded public spaces is not dignified or polite. I'm about done. As I said earlier, I've been to many renowned museums in this country, as I'm sure many of you have. I'm not a stranger to avant-garde art. However, unlike many other art museums, including the Nelson and the Kemper Contemporary Art Museum in Kansas City, the Nerman Museum, unlike those, is taxpayer subsidized. That puts it in a different category with respect to the type of stewardship that should be maintained in overseeing the museum. And that's why I'm here, because you, my friends, are stewards of this, right? You're stewards of the taxpayers' treasury. It is reasonable to have some stewardship oversight over what we taxpayers are at least indirectly subsidizing. There's a guideline on the website, operational policies and procedures. Principle number 3, ensure academic and curatorial freedom in exhibition, acquisitions, and educational programming in accordance with community standards. That's a guideline. I think that's a fair and reasonable guideline, but I would emphasize the in accordance with community standards. And I would submit to you that the exhibition has crossed that line, and I think they've demonstrated a need for some proper oversight, which is what I'm asking of you, to provide such oversight as stewards of our resources. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming forward. Appreciate you having the boldness to address the issues. We certainly will review the oversight. I know that when decisions are made for exhibits, lots of deliberation goes in, but you've raised some excellent points, and so I appreciate you coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our open forum. We now turn to board reports. Student Senate, Lawal Essa, I think, is here tonight.
Hi. I do also have a handout to pass along to all of you to keep track. Thank you. As Dr. Cook mentioned, my name is Dila Isa. I'm the Vice President of the Student Senate, and he is currently taking a final, so I'm stepping in on his absence.
Being a student tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's being a student first. So not take too much of your time, we'll jump right into the agenda. The first thing is the funds that we've allocated so far this semester to the different clubs across the semester. The last 4 club requests, starting with Hospitality Club, IDSA International Club, and Graphic Design Club, were the most recent ones. But that altogether, that brings our total allocated funds to $25,969.98. Overall, we have passed our halfway point with our budget, but we are really excited about all the events that we were able to help the student body accomplish and be part of, and we're really excited to see how many more events that we can support next semester as well. The next thing on the agenda is the 9th annual JC Gives. JC Gives is something that we put on every single year for the JCC, to benefit the JCC community, including students, staff, and their immediate family. This year, we had 33 individuals that we were able to help, and we were able to provide 100 gifts. 60 of those gifts were provided by JCC community members, so they were able to adopt someone off the tree that we had set up and brought in the gifts to help those in need. The other 40 gifts that we had were brought in by donations and fundraising efforts that we set up throughout the semester. Some of those fundraising events included Penny Wars, personal donations, Wreaths Across America, and Trivia Night. And overall, that total came to $1,290. For Penny Wars, it was something that we hosted with the different clubs on campus through Interclub, where clubs could bring in a jar and add up their pennies to collect points. And our winner was Luna, and they will be getting a pizza party next semester. So, yeah. Finally, for next semester, we have our winter retreat where we talk about upcoming plans for the spring semester and seeing what, kind of giving an overview of what that semester looks like. And then we will start the recruitment for spring 2020 senators and the 2020-2021 executive board members. So, yeah, and that concludes everything.
Thank you, Trustee Musil.
Did you say when the winter retreat was?
The retreat, it's in January. Do you, a specific date?
Would you just circulate the
Yeah, sure.
agenda?
Yeah, that we can do that, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? You guys have been very aggressive and ambitious, and are doing a lot of good work. To serve 100 or 33 individuals for the 100 gifts, that's pretty nice. So thank you very much for your effort.
Thank you.
And I hope all of your finals go well.
I'm hoping to. Thank you.
Next item is the college lobbyist for Dick Carter. Dick could not be with us this evening. You have his report in front of you. I think just a couple of things. You've got a report on state revenues. You've got some of the major items that he believes that the legislature will be dealing with as revenues are coming in, I guess, a little bit ahead of expectation. There will be the discussion of tax reform. Some of us who were at KECCT heard about tax reform or more services, and a couple of services that are getting attention, I think, early on are the Medicaid expansion and foster care, taking care of our foster care children. So the session will be interesting. Dr. Sopcich, do you have anything else to add?
Perhaps the most relevant, well, it's all relevant, but one of the key issues here, it talks about an $85.3 million request, an increase for the higher ed budget. And so it'll be interesting to see how far that can go. And of course, if that gets through, it'll benefit all community colleges and especially their career and technical education programs.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Cross.
We've generally been for local control, right? In Topeka, we've advocated for local control. You're doing the briefing here tonight, right? Does it also include the legalization of medical marijuana? Do we have a position on that?
On the legalization of?
No, I'm just messing with you. You were giving the briefing. So. He briefed medical marijuana as a key legislative issue.
We don't have a position on that unless you'd like to take a leading.
I choose to practice law and live my life in a way that there's no reason this can't be fun, you know? So.
Thank you for
Mr.
your
Chair.
comments.
I withdraw the question.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions of Mr. Carter? Okay. Faculty Association, Dr. Harvey. Not going to answer. I can't answer.
Hello. Well, okay, so I wasn't going to say this, but now I am real quick. I have to say, I respect differences of opinions on art. You know, art does evoke strong responses from people. That's part of what it's supposed to do. But I do feel like I want to say just a little bit about our Nerman Museum, because it's been a subject that's been brought up the last two board meetings. And I have to say, it is such a world-class contemporary art museum, and I love it so much. Some of the works, I've learned so much from our collection here. It's such an educational piece, and it's so valuable. Like, when I travel to other cities, I always try to spend at least a half a day going through a gallery, and I usually go for the modern art museums. And I went to the DC, and I went to the National Gallery, and I knew who Kendi Wiley was before he painted Obama, because we have one of his pieces in our museum. It's spectacular. And I saw Obama's portrait, and it was spectacular. And I, you know, like Leo Villarreal, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he has a light exhibit here. He had one of the traveling exhibits we had in all of those galleries that rotate. He had a whole exhibition a couple years ago, and anyway, there is a really cool installation in the National Gallery of his, that you ride an escalator from one side to the other, and it's super neat. But there's all these great artists. We have some of the best collection of anywhere, and I think we're so fortunate to have such a museum. So I just want to say that I love the Nerman. It is educational. Not every exhibit's for everyone. I know not all parts of galleries are my kind of thing, and I just kind of leave those and go to the places that I enjoy. Okay, but my actual report today, I wanted to talk about this week in faculty. There's lots of exams and papers and grading happening right now. And presentations, it is finals week. And I wanted to say I appreciate the attendance of all the administrators and board members that have been coming to many of our student presentations and events. I know there's a lot of them, and most of you have jobs and to do beyond going to those, but it means a lot to our students and our faculty that you come and you see the accomplishments of our students. It's great to have your presence. I know there's been a lot of them. I'm aware of a couple, like for example, yesterday I know there was the Honors Leadership and Civic Engagement student final presentations, and many of you were there. I saw pictures on Facebook that documented it, and I know that's appreciated. Last week week on Thursday, we had our course-based undergraduate research experience symposium, and we had a number of board members and administrators that came to that and asked our students questions, and we really appreciate that you could be part of that event. And I just wanted to talk just a little bit about that one. We've been doing this for a while. We recently decided to formalize the name for our efforts. It's course-based undergraduate research. It's where a student takes a class and they're part of a research experience just for being in the course. And the foundation has generously given us a partner grant to help us with that this semester. And it's going to help us in the next several semesters to support some students traveling to meetings and also for that event. And I also want to just say that it's we're already growing. I just spoke to one faculty member who's going to add a project for Organic 2 next fall. I know an astronomy faculty member is going to join us next fall. So the next time you come, there's going to be more diversity in the presentations and the projects because it'll be bigger. So we're super excited to let as many students as possible be a part of doing actual science in their classes and be part of research. And I don't always talk about science that much, but last month I was gone from this meeting because I was attending a community college undergraduate research experience summit in DC. It was sponsored by the NSF and the American Association for Community Colleges. The focus was identifying barriers and collecting strategies for overcoming the barriers to expand opportunities for community college students to do research. And I learned a lot about how it looks at different institutions across the country, different community colleges. And I would say that we already have resources and mechanisms that put us ahead of most of the institutions of people that I talk to. Some of the big barriers that people have include time of students and faculty, financial. That's both students and faculty. So it's resources, but it's also students having financial resources to participate. Space and equipment. And I say we have a pretty good head start. The college has been pretty generous with our science on equipment. And I know we are talking about renovating science labs in the coming years. So I wanted to mention this as an opportunity. I think that as we plan, I know there's going to be a lot of planning and meeting coming up, but as we start planning for our science labs, just keeping in mind where we want to be in 20 years, where do we want our science programs to be? And one of the things that we have recognized that we need is not just our teaching labs, but also some small dedicated spaces for student research. And this is a great time for us to keep that kind of on the forefront as we plan for those. And that is one of the space, that was a big thing that kept coming up at this summit I was a part of. And I was like, well, we're actually right on the edge of doing something with that in the coming years. And so that's why I wanted to mention it to you all, because you'll be in the position of making some bigger decisions. And so I think it's exciting to think about our college sort of being a leader in providing opportunities for students to participate in research. Some other things that promote undergraduate research at institutions include culminating events, like the visibility of accomplishments, which you guys attended, the poster session. So we've got a lot of those things already. Cohort support. We've had communities of practice already formed from grants, grant support. And so we've had a lot of things at this college that have really promoted these. And also a culture of recognition. So having a culture that recognizes when faculty go above and beyond in developing and providing extraordinary opportunities for their students. And when they're recognized, it just encourages faculty to do this. And so speaking of recognition, I just wanted to mention we have some awards that have been, I know there weren't any awards tonight, but there were some awards that were announced this week for some of our full-time faculty. The Distinguished Service Award, and I think those are being probably in the board packet somewhere, but proposed to you all. Eve Blowbaum, Michelle Clark, Terry Easley Geraldo, Monica Hogan, Jim Hopper, Dave Krug, Heather Seitz, Lori Slavin, and Deb Williams. And I know you know many of those names because you've been to presentations of their students probably. And additionally, Michelle Clark and Jim Hopper I just saw the announcement today that they were named as winners of the League for Innovation Excellence Award for 2019. So I know a lot of our faculty are doing extraordinary things and we don't even know about it, but I did want to take a minute and recognize some of them that have contributed a lot. And a couple of these are officers that work with me, and I'm so honored to work with such amazing faculty at this institution. And finally, I just wanted to tell you that we've got 4 of our officers that are going to be attending a statewide KNEA Higher Ed Symposium. And then a couple of other faculty as well. There's 18 higher ed unions that are part of KNEA, and we're going to be meeting together with representatives from all of those for a symposium to talk about higher ed issues in early January in Topeka. And then also I was asked to attend the KNEA Higher Ed Conference in March on behalf of, it's the NEA Higher Ed Conference on behalf of KNEA. I'll be doing that later in March too. So we're kind of branching out and coordinating with some of the other locals in other higher eds. So that's all for my report.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. Any questions or comments of Dr. Harvey?
Mr. Chair.
Trustee Cross.
President, right? I get chair or president. You think after 7 years I'd know that? You're
Me, I'm president.
President, Madam President, yes. I was a labor activist, as you know. My father was a union bricklayer. I've been an ally of the faculty. And I think one of the things that I take tremendous pride in is the fact that unions have typically, and organized people have typically fought for the rights of all workers, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone gets the benefit of the weekend, for instance, despite the fact that a number of people organized to make that happen. Would you think that all of our employees, regardless of their union status, deserve to be protected at this college?
Yeah.
Free from discrimination?
Yes.
Free from baseless attack?
Yeah.
Right? It's important that we treat all of our employees fairly.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I thank you for helping me lay this record. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You had no idea that was happening. That was all.
Nope.
So.
I mean, we try to support when we have opportunity. Technically, I legally represent the bargaining unit, but I would say that anytime there's a policy that we're aware of that can extend and support everyone, that our union leaders are always interested in helping other people at this institution.
Workdays, stuff like that.
8 hour
benefits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think often the things that are negotiated end up translating to the other employees at the institution.
This will make more sense later, but thank you so much.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. Johnson County Research Triangle, Trustee Cross.
Mr. Chair, I have no report. We'll meet again in April, April 20th. April 20th of 2020, 7:30 a.m. at K-State Olathe will be our next meeting.
Okay.
Johnson County Research Triangle.
Kansas Association of Community Colleges, in Trustee Lawson's absence, a number of us were there. Trustee Ingram was elected president of KACCT, so congratulations for that. And I would allow you and then the trustees that were there to speak about the meeting we just hosted on this campus last weekend.
Well, I served as secretary, so I was taking notes and was not prepared to give a report this evening, but I will let you know. We have a wonderful board. This is a group of 19 colleges all across the state that work very closely together. We hired a new executive director, and I won't go into detail about that, but Heather has really created a very strong program for us. So we're very excited about moving forward with her. A number of things were talked about. Certainly the budget that we'll be hearing more about after the first of the year is of great concern to all of us. I would go ahead and maybe share the other officers that I'll be working with. Our vice president will be Mike Johnson from Barton County Community College. Secretary is Dennis Peters from Neosho Community College, and the treasurer remains David Marshall from Highland Community College. And our past president was Michelle Ham from Pratt Community College. So got a good board of people working together as we move forward. So,
Trustee Musil, you attended?
Well, I thought I'm not as active in KCCT because I'm not as fond of driving to Dodge City and Garden City and Labette County as Trustee Ingram is. But it was an excellent meeting. It's good that our issues are not the same as the other, probably at least 17 of the other community colleges that are not urban colleges. I can't say Kansas we may share some things with, but the program was excellent. I thought Friday's seminar kind of facilitating what it takes to have good board governance and the emphasis on trust and relationship building was important. I thought the data that we showed from our national benchmarking center that's headquartered here at Johnson County Community College was excellent. And then the information about the Kansas Economic Development strategy that's going on now was very helpful, and just have a good time getting to know people in other colleges and finding out we do have some things in common as far as challenges, even though we're maybe in completely different settings. So I thank Trustee Ingram for her leadership on that group.
Trustee Snyder?
I would echo. I was not able to attend as much of it as I would have liked because of some previous engagements, but I thought that was my first exposure to KCCT. But I echo Greg's comments. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, Heather Morgan, who's the new executive director, put together a really, I think, comprehensive agenda. Brought in some resources. Department of Revenue was represented. Lieutenant Governor spoke. And Trustee Musil referenced, we have differences of our colleges. An issue that we perhaps take for granted, Tom Pagano and others, is our broadband. But broadband is a big challenge in rural Kansas. Students have difficulty accessing the internet, have difficulty completing their work, so they have to find a site where they can have broadband access. I found it interesting that the Department of Revenue also talked about that's a challenge to rural prosperity in Kansas, and so that's an issue that's being addressed. Senator Baumgartner made a presentation from our college. She's the chairman of the Senate Education Committee, and kind of subtly said that there will be discussion to allow community colleges to combine programs. And that created some interest among the community colleges, particularly when she put it in perspective that referring it to the healthcare situation in Kansas, and she reported that there are 40 hospitals in Kansas, 40 hospitals in Kansas that have a daily census of one patient. And 85% of the hospitals in Kansas operate in the red. And so rural health care, the need for nurses and pharmacists is really evident. And a lot of hospitals have stopped their OBGYN services, and so that creates a lot of problems in rural Kansas. You really have to plan how far you are away from a hospital that offers OBGYN if you're having that need. So the implication was community colleges, we've got some that, if we talk about declining enrollments, and they're close by, are there ways you can combine your resources and rather than have Topeka make that decision? So whether it's K through 12 consolidation, and then we have a number of school districts that have less than 100 students in them, K through 12, that will get discussion every year, I think. So any reactions? Trustee Cross.
I'd just like to apologize. I couldn't make it. I had, frankly, some family matters to attend to. And with respect to the National Benchmarking Institute, that rings a bell. Didn't we have something to do with its development?
I believe we created it.
Specifically,
and we have
Dr.
grown
Sobczak,
it
maybe?
to both two-year colleges and four-year colleges. And an interesting thing about that is that I think only 6 of the Kansas community colleges participate, largely because many of them have a 0.5 full-time equivalent person in their IT department, and they simply don't have the resources to pull the data when we talk about IT challenges. If there's one thing that KCCT should drive home to everybody that attends from this college is how blessed we are to have the resources we have. But yes, I mean, we're the national leader in that benchmarking institute, and it was great to have somebody from Johnson County Community College present that data.
And if I may, just one last point, Mr. Chair. I think a key and critical point is that despite things that are going on here, wonderful and remarkable things have happened. And I just wanted to say that. Again, I've said it, and I try to be fair in my analysis and criticism alike, and I think that needed to be pointed out.
Every day. Trustee Lawson, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chair. I am so sorry to the public. I have been trying to call in since about 4:45, and for some reason I was able to do it as of right now. So I appreciate all the trustees of the board for filling in the public as to what happened at the Kansas Association of Community Colleges. I want to applaud Trustee Ingram, who was elected by acclamation to be the chair of that state board association. I think she'll do a fantastic job leading that way. A lot of the public had already heard some of the guest speakers that we had. It was great to have Lieutenant Governor Lynn Rogers there, as well as we heard from the advisors regarding the vigor of the State House and the governor to continue funding for our community colleges this year, which would be really great for the full fulfilling of those pledges that we are looking for. And of course, that's some really great news for our college and a sign for our future. And I also want to thank all the presidents who came out and attended a few games of top golf with me before the meeting. I thought that was really fun, and it's a tradition that the presidents and trustees have carried on, and I look forward to doing something in March when we are up to Topeka.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Foundation report, Trustee Musil.
The foundation is currently accepting applications for new foundation board members. The board development committee will meet after the first of the year to recommend new board members for the 2021 school year. The process will conclude with a vote at the foundation's April 8th directors meeting. Also currently accepting nominations for the 2020 Johnson County of the Year. This past year we honored Frank Devasel from Olathe Medical Center. So next year's nominee will be determined through the nominating process. Nominations are due January 11th. A selection committee comprised of the trustee chair, vice chair, some enchanted evening chairs, and sponsorship committee chair. The college president and foundation members will review the submissions. Recommendations can be delivered to the foundation office or emailed directly to foundation.dept, foundation.dept@jccc.edu. So if you have somebody you think is worthy of Johnson County of the Year, and I believe the criteria are on our website, you can look at. So obviously the more nominations, the better. The foundation wants to close by thanking all the trustees and cabinet members, the president, faculty, staff, and students for making 2019 such a successful and historic year. Lots of efforts to support our students, including over $1.2 million in scholarships, continued support from the community, and it's greatly appreciated by everybody who works every day to try to make this place a better place for everyone.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Cross.
I have the pleasure of being liaison with Trustee Musil, who's carried most of the water on that committee. I appreciate it. The 1.2 million is like a record, right?
We have set a record each of the last, I don't know, every number of years I've been on the board. So we got to keep it up.
Thank you, sir.
And I should note that Some Enchanted Evening ended up with a total fundraising of over $1 million for the first time in history. Thanks and to the final gift from the Zamorowskis, the Johnson Counties of the Year in 2018. So it was a record year and it was a great event.
Well, I would also like to thank both of you for your service to the foundation and to all of the foundation people. We have a lot of committed citizens in the county that value what goes on at this college, and the foundation has a long history of contributions. And so Kate and Rob and all the work you guys do on a daily basis, we thank you very, very much. It helps a lot of students get over some difficult times. So we're very proud of that and very proud of the work you do.
Thank you.
And the support we get from our community. Next item is collegial steering. Collegial steering did meet Tuesday, December 3rd, and as I reported to you at the November meeting, that was an agenda that Trustee Ingram and I led. We've decided at collegial steering to have each of the 5 organizations take the lead on a monthly topic. And so we talked about what it's like to be a trustee. We talked about trustee authority, where do we get it? And as a quick review, it comes from Kansas statute, the Higher Learning Commission, and our own series of policies that we adopt according to Kansas statute. We talked about our responsibilities, that being electing, developing, working with the president of the college, approving policy that's generated by the faculty staff through the administrative various committee works, to have a fiduciary responsibility oversight of the budget, and then a fourth one to be a positive advocate for the college. We talked about our number of constituencies, and tonight's a good example. So we have a viewpoint on an art exhibit. That's one constituency. We have another constituency that might say that culture should be broad-based and should inspire discussion. We have another constituency of staff that puts together the exhibits. We have constituency of faculty and staff that use those exhibits accordingly. We have constituency of the taxpayer that funds it. So the point in all of that is that if we're effective trustees, do we have a balance of how we listen to the various constituencies and take into consideration, and hopefully each time make what's the best decision for the benefit of the college, the students that attend here, and the faculty and staff that serve them, and the administration that serve them. So tonight was a good example of how we deal with many constituencies. I've always felt that when that constituency representation gets out of balance just toward one constituency, then perhaps we're not maximizing the potential for the college broad-based. And then we also talked about our partnerships. So our partnerships with K through 12 education, KACCT, ACCT, is very important of how we understand the challenges that our 18 community college friends have in Kansas, and how we can understand their problems and support them to advance the movement of community college in the state of Kansas. So with that, I think the next meeting, the administration is on base to talk about what the administration deals with and the challenges that they have, and then the other organizations, Faculty Association, Senate, and Educational Affairs will finish up the year. Trustee Ingram.
I'm going to miss it. We had a great discussion this last time, and I think it was very enlightening for everyone to hear from the trustees. And likewise, we were able to share our thoughts, but I hope that the incoming folks will do the same thing and kind of start it off with that same spirit of collegiality. So, thank you.
Any questions? Human Resources, Trustee Lawson.
Hi, Mr. Chair. There was some confusion here as the board package had come out before this meeting, which led me to believe that since it was on the same day as the JCCC, this meeting actually would not occur. I was not contacted, and then that I had missed the meeting or attempted to get a hold of me in regards to this committee meeting, even after I saw the committee members and guests that arrived for the KCCT event that weekend. It wasn't until a few days later I received the HR minutes that I am informed that this committee had actually met, even though I am the chair. So I will turn this time over to Trustee Musil, since I see that he was in attendance.
Trustee Musil.
Yes, I attended the meeting, which was on our regular Friday morning, first Friday in the month. A number of staff were present at the meeting. We had about an hour and a half meeting. The first item was Beckley Centrover, Vice President for Human Resources, gave an annual workforce update, an overview of what Human Resources does, HR compliance and regulatory initiatives, benefit services provided, employee relations, performance evaluations, posting of new hires and separations from the fiscal year. We had some interesting statistics that were in your packet for the committee meeting. I just thought I'd run through some of those. Our turnover rate for full-time regular employees is 7%, which is well below national average. Our part-time regular turnover is 9%, also below national average. Our part-time temporary is 15%, but that includes a lot of student workers who work for less than 13 hours a week. One of the things noteworthy there was that the number of dependents taking advantage of free tuition that we offer to employees went from 400 people to about 1,000 people between 2017 and then 2018 and then 2019, because we made that available to part-time regular employees. So a significant benefit to a part-time regular employees that they can now send themselves or dependents to Johnson County Community College without tuition. There was evidence, we talked about the faculty evaluation processes, the process done by deans, and the separate process done through the portfolio process. And I think there will be some more discussion about that process going forward. With respect to posting of jobs, there was information. When posting a full-time faculty position in school year 2015-16, we received 16 applications per full-time faculty position opening. In 2018-19, we received 44 per opening, and thus far this year, we received 47 applications per full-time faculty position opening. So it's a highly competitive position to obtain at Johnson County Community College. Lisa Gartland, who manages employment services, presented more information on the hiring process, how it's posted, how hiring committees are selected, how they go about their business, including details on the faculty hiring process and more information about how that works. We reviewed operational issues. There are quarterly exit and stay interviews. Exit interviews are held face-to-face with any employee who's separating from the college and will agree to that. Quarterly exit interviews are online. Stay interviews, after you've been here for 6 months, stay interviews are done in person, and so we get results from those. And because they're in the big number per quarter, you need to kind of combine those to get some information. But it's good information and about what people think can be improved and what people think are good things about working here. We also talked about board packet security. In response, is Dennis still here? Mr. Batliner's comments about board packet security. My understanding is that presentation was given to all 4 committees, and that we were the last committee to receive it. And by the time we received it, there had been discussion about further study on that, and that staff will go back, review what other public bodies are doing, and come back, and that there will be another public discussion about that before any action is taken. But the gist of it is that, to the contrary of some people, we include more in our packets, more data. Every employee's name that moves, every employee that's hired, every bidder and things. And that has led to the opportunity for hackers and scammers to go to those people, try to change their direct deposit if they're a new employee, try to get a purchase order issued if they're a vendor. And so what staff has brought to us is the concern that we are placing some of our policies, our vendors, our students, our faculty at risk by having as broad a dissemination, unlimited dissemination of board packets, and that we need to at least look at that. But nothing is going to happen before January, and this is not some effort to reduce the amount of public information. Public information is public information under the Kansas Open Records Act, whether we reference it in our packet or put it in the packet. So I want to make sure everybody understands this is competing values of putting everything out publicly versus protecting people from scammers that are legion on the internet. And so we're going to study it some more before anything happens. But Dr. Sopcich, if I've misstated, please let me know.
Trustee Musil, you never misstate anything. I do want to make something clear, though. The gist of the recommendation was basically two steps. Because of the intensity of the activity as far as people trying to hack the system, of which every one of you are at risk if people can get into your accounts, we proposed people could still get the board packet for after simply writing in or putting in their email address, no different than if you bought something online. And that is it for the time being. It would give us a little bit of time, but hopefully that move would act as a deterrent. Nothing is excluded from the board packet. Everything is there as it always has been. People would simply have to just enter their email address, which could possibly deter somebody who might have that intent when they see that they have to do that, but it gives us more time to do the work that we said we would do in the first place. And so that's kind of where we're at, but the misperception or the inaccurate perception that access to the board packet is false. It's all we're going to do is request that email address.
Trustee Cross.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank you, Trustee Musil and Dr. Sopcich. I have no problem with this, just to speak my thoughts. Practicing law, and I know the U.S. Supreme Court and most courts, as they administer their record and transcripts, they're only available for cost and post hoc. And I think that allows lawyers and litigants to be able to go into a courtroom and to allow and encourage, frankly, honest discussion anyway. But yet a record exists. So I think any security measure we can take seems reasonable to me, and I just wanted to say that.
Any other comments or questions of Trustee Musil?
Mr. Chair, this is Angelina. I just wanted to make sure that I had a comment about this, that I just have some great concerns about this policy. I want to make sure that if we look and as we assess any disadvantaged residents who might use libraries rather than email addresses to view the board packet, that we are not looking at a specific economic group of people, that we're looking at all residents that would have access to our information and documents, that we are not using our privilege that would be able to assume that everyone can do a core request, has access to email, has all those things. So I think as we explore these concerns, that those things are really flushed out and we get public comment for those as well.
Okay, thank you.
And the key word there was explore. And so based on the input that we received after these presentations, we are stepping back. And as you said, Trustee Musil, we're kind of on hold as we investigate all the different areas that we need to look at.
Well, I, as one committee member, one trustee, appreciate the fact you brought it to each committee's attention so that people at the committee meetings could understand why you're asking about it and gave examples of things where you are at risk, because otherwise we wouldn't have known anything about it. And it's two competing values that we've got to find a way to balance, and that's why we get paid the big bucks.
Trustee Snyder.
Thank you. I didn't know we were wading into a discussion about this tonight, and it sounds like we're trying to wrap it up. So I'll just note that I did express concerns both on Learning Quality and Management Committee, and do look forward to furthering those discussions in January.
Very good. Okay.
I have one last item. We reviewed the federal work-study program here where students are able to get jobs on campus. It is expanded greatly due in large part to Kelly Cole and Ashley Jost, who presented to us. Our budget was increased significantly. We matched 25% of the federal funds with college funds. Had a fall work-study career fair, which led to a lot more students knowing about the program and applying for it and actually getting jobs. As of today, we have 107 students on campus in the work-study program. The entirety of last school year, we had 97. So I want to congratulate Kelly and Ashley and Randy, your team, for helping students find a way to do work on campus, not only to their benefit, but to our benefit. Our next meeting will be first week of February 2020, with the time and place to be determined, I assume, by the new chair of Human Resources.
Thank you. Next item is Learning Quality. Trustee Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your hardworking Learning Quality Committee met on Monday, December 2nd at 8:30 in this room and had another provocative discussion and informative discussion. The highlight of the meeting was an overview of the CLEAR program here on campus, which is a phenomenal program. It gave me an opportunity to learn more about the origins of the program and also some of the stakeholders and communities that it benefits in our community. And it's really just phenomenal. There's information on our website. It probably doesn't go into as much detail as we received, but just one of the innovative things that I learned about is a CVS kind of sponsored or aided mock pharmacy here on campus that allows these students to go in and get some real life work experiences through that. So this is one of the programs I've heard most about from community members about things that we do here on campus. So I encourage us, and no doubt we will continue that commitment. We also received several communications about curriculum modifications. Those will be ongoing. I have no recommendations this month, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions of Trustee Snyder?
That's a hard-working committee? No recommendations?
I think the word is efficient.
Management. Trustee Ingram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Management Committee met at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, December 4th in the boardroom. The information related to the Management Committee begins on page 8 and runs through page 25 of the board packet. The Management Committee received several presentations from staff. Randy Weber, Interim Executive Vice President for Finance and Administrative Services, presented information on agreement with peer advisors for Veteran Education Program, known as PAVE. This agreement can be found in the consent agenda on page 67 of the board packet. Rachel Lears, Associate Vice President of Financial Services, CFO, provided the proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 calendar and the budget guidelines. I will read the recommendation for the guidelines shortly. Next, Ms. Lears reported that 2019 tax levy rates have been published by the county clerk's office. The college's final 2019 tax levy rate is 9.121 mils. This is lower than the 2018 tax levy rate of 9.266 mils as a result of the board's vote to reduce the tax levy for the college's fiscal year 2019-20 budget. The total county valuation is approximately $11.1 billion, an increase of 5.61% over last year. Janelle Vogler, Associate Vice President, Business Services, and Phil Mine, Executive Director, IT Security, presented information on board packet security. This information was reported in the Human Resources narrative. Ms. Vogler presented the single source purchase report and the summary of awarded bids between $50,000 and $150,000. The summary can be found on page 20. There were 2 contract renewals this month, and that summary is on page 21 of the board packet. Rex Hayes, Associate Vice President, Campus Services, provided a monthly update on capital infrastructure projects, and this report is on page 22 of the packet. He also reported on the current progress of the construction projects on campus, then reviewed the report on the financial status of the facilities master plan projects. That report is in your packet on page 23. The Management Committee has the following recommendations to present this evening. Ms. Lears presented an interlocal agreement with the City of Gardner. Under Kansas law, municipalities are authorized to establish a Neighborhood Revitalization Plan, NRP, and develop a property tax rebate program to encourage both reinvestment and improvement to a specific area or district of a community. An NRP allows a municipality to rebate to a taxpayer all or a portion of the increased property tax incurred by an improvement made to the property. The rebate is available only for the increased increment of taxes and may last up to 10 years. The City of Gardner last created an NRP in 1997, and JCCC was a party to Gardner's 1997 interlocal agreement. The 10-year tax rebate period under the 1997 agreement ended in 2017. The City of Gardner now is in the process of proposing a new NRP in different areas than was proposed in 1997. The proposed 2019 NRP includes 3 commercial and 1 residential areas and is intended to promote business and residential growth. A site plan of this area can be found on the maps included in the board packet. The City of Gardner intends to negotiate an interlocal agreement for the affected local taxing entities, including Johnson County Community College, the Gardner USD 231 School District, the Board of County Commissioners of Johnson County, and Johnson County Parks and Rec to participate in the revitalization plan. To fulfill the requirements of the Kansas statute, the JCCC Board is being asked to approve a resolution agreeing to enter into the interlocal agreement concerning the proposed 2019 NRP. The college has generally viewed such programs as beneficial to the county, and in this instance does not believe the rebates would have a material negative effect on the college's tax revenue. As mentioned, we do have a recommendation, and I'll proceed with that. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation of the college administration to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Gardner, agreeing to participate in the proposed 2019 Neighborhood Revitalization Plan as described above, and I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Trustee Musil.
I would simply ask that the next management committee maybe go ask those cities where it's expired, where it's more than 10 years old, to at least give us a one-page report about what good was done in that neighborhood, because I think this can be a good program. And I don't oppose this in any way, but we've done a number of them so far, and the cities come back and do them again. So it'd be nice to know what the contribution was. I mean, the amount's $8,000 a year, it's estimated. So, but I think it'd be worthwhile for management committee or at least staff to make ask that question.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Trustee Cross.
Mr. Chair, yes, I've liked Gardner ever since my father was born there, and I have no problem with this.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Our next recommendation is for the budget calendar and guidelines for fiscal year 2020-2021. The purpose of the recommendation is to approve the budget guidelines in December so that they may be used by the college administration to begin the budget development process based on anticipated revenues and expenses. The guidelines are subject to adjustment as updated information is received over the coming months, such as changes in assessed valuation or state funding. However, upon approval, the tuition and fee rates included in the budget guidelines will be used by the college administration in preparing for the 2020-2021 year. The proposed tuition and fee rates are unchanged from the current year for Johnson County resident students, $94, in-state student residents, $112, out-of-state and international students, $223, and metro rate students, $138. As a reminder, members of the community may utilize the open forum period of any monthly Johnson County Community College Board meeting to address the board regarding the college's budget. Community members may also attend the annual budget workshop, which will be held at the beginning of April 2020 board meeting, as well as a public hearing for the 2020-21 budget, which will be held at the beginning of August 2020 board meeting just prior to the adoption of the college's legal budget. It is the recommendation of the Management Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the preliminary guidelines for development of the college's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, and I will make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Trustee Cross.
Well, I defer to Trustee Musil. He's got seniority.
I had alerted Rachel and Randy earlier today. We're keeping the mill levy the same, and we're assuming a 4.5% increase in assessed value. What does that translate to in terms of additional money for the college in the general fund and then in the capital outlay fund, which has a 0.5 mil levy?
Yeah, correct. For the general fund, the same mill levy would increase general fund revenue by 4.4 million, 4.415, and it would increase the capital outlay fund by $293,764.
Thank you.
It's a good question, Mr. Trustee.
And to clarify, that's assuming the 4.5% growth that we're expecting?
That would be if the same mill levy goes into the same 4.5 growth, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to commend the administration. This is, I think, the fourth and fifth year we've kept tuition at the same rate?
No.
Fifth.
We raised it $1.
Fourth and five, I meant to say. Fourth
It's the
and five.
fourth out of five, yeah. So it's $1 over 5 years, which
Right.
averages out to be 20 cents a year.
So as we take criticism for enrollment being down, we're doing things that we can, like saying freeze tuition to maybe attract more students. Wouldn't that be a reasonable measure that we take to try to get?
One would hope that was one of
Right.
the results of that, yeah.
And I know that we have come back and we've adjusted the mill and we've had arguments and debate as we want to do, but I think that these are great recommendations and I appreciate it. So.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Trustee Lawson. I just have a question.
Yes.
Or not a question. So I am concerned with the conservative estimates of 4.5%. With that in mind, I would be interested in entertaining to make a motion that staff look at projections in Johnson County and consider more short-term certification programs or consider a considerable mill levy rollback or the public input that was turned in by Dennis Batliner to be assessed as well. And if we can send that back to management with the task of being more open to these options, I think that we will need to make sure that we are not having too conservative of an estimate of the appraisal values, but that we actually get the actual appraisal values based on substantial information that documents that would be great. Thank you.
I would say that when you look at the budget calendar, we have several checkpoints between now and when the final budget is adopted. And in that process, we always review mill levy adjustments. If they come in higher or lower, we always have that flexibility to deal with the mill levy accordingly, and this board has always been sensitive to equating the levy to the assessed valuation in terms of the dollars needed. So that's a process that's built right into the system. With that, Trustee Snyder?
Thank you. I'm glad to hear Trustee Lawson is amenable to mill levy rollbacks. That's good thought process that has evolved on her part, I think. I would just note that in our management committee discussion, we did note that should our, while we always have the flexibility, should our valuations go beyond 4.5, that I, for one, would be interested in rolling back our mill levy, consistent with what we've done the last 2 or even 3 years.
Just to clarify, Trustee Lawson, you said you wanted to make a motion. I believe that everything you're implying is in the budget calendar process itself, but I've misunderstood that. I would ask for a second to your motion if you feel that your comment will not be considered.
I think I was just kind of encouraging the board that I would be entertained to make that motion if the board feels that we need to go in that direction. So I just would like to either see the money spent in short-term certification program and we increase that, or we have a considerable rollback on the mill levy, but we also look at what the public has inputted for the concerns around track and the funding of instilling that program. I think it's worthwhile to look at all those numbers and be able to come back to us and see, and so we have more options on the table as we go forward with these guidelines. So that's up to the board, and I'll let the board decide if I need to make that official motion.
I appreciate that. I think those steps are in place. The whole budget development, again, as we talked about earlier, is administrative driven by program need. And we certainly, and we did respond to Mr. Batliner when he was here regarding that issue. But I'm also reminded that a few months ago, we had a nice presentation from a resident who thought that we should develop a stronger autistic program, both for training teachers and for students that are going to school here. I mentioned in the meeting that I've had people say we should add an aviation program. We certainly are well aware of the need to expand our nursing program, and so there are lots of program developments that work through the process administratively, and I think that those steps are there. So I don't know that a motion is necessary right now, Trustee Lawson, but I appreciate your comment. Trustee Musil.
That sounds great, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
We have a motion.
Well, Trustee, right, on the budget adoption, that's correct.
The reason I asked my question was, it may be a broken record here over the number of years I've been here, but we're going to get $4.1 million in new money, assuming the Johnson County economy stays strong and valuations increase as of January 1st. And nothing in the economy between now and January 1st is going to change those valuations. So just so everybody in the public knows, Randy is interim vice president of business and finance, and Rachel as our chief operating officer or controller or whatever the actual title is, chief financial officer. They've gone to the county appraiser and gotten the best information possible about what the increases might be. And they will be conservative because I assume he thinks they're going to be maybe somewhere above 4.5, but I'd rather be conservative and under that rather than have to cut things out of next year's potential budget. So I think we already have not only accurate, but reasonably and responsibly conservative estimates of the numbers. And we'll get over $4 million new dollars next year. Now, that has to fund a 3% salary increase for every employee on this campus, right? Because we're committed to that. That has to fund increased health insurance and other benefit costs. That has to fund increases in our energy, electrical rates, because we're an all-electric campus. Dr. Harvey mentioned that we're getting ready to spend millions of dollars on science lab renovations. That's part of the reason we have reserves. A new track program, we can certainly think about it, and if 4 members of this board say it's the thing to do, we'll do it. It will take $2.5 million out of that 4.1 to do that. Over $2 million to build the track and about $500,000 a year in operating costs. That's a policy choice that we can make. I said it when we did the track thing. Nobody wanted to do it. The hardest thing ever to do is say no to a project or a program. And so when we get into the budget process, which starts now and ends next August, we'll have all those choices to make. But I'm with Trustee Snyder. If the evaluations come in over 4.5%, I'm going to support rolling back the mill levy so we take the additional 4.1 million, but no more, because it's the only way we stop things. Everybody, I've been in here almost 9 years now. Nobody has come to this podium and said, cut my program, cut this program, don't pay people for this program. And I understand that. We've got a lot of good programs, and they all can be successful, and they all contribute. But this board has the fiduciary obligation as one of our top 4 obligations that you mentioned, Chair Cook, and one of those is to do a budget that's sustainable.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have one no.
That
Anything?
concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next item is the nominating committee. I will make a comment before I turn it over to Trustee Lindstrom and Trustee Snyder, who were on the nominating committee. In reference to comments made in the open forum, we do have a series of practices that we follow in terms of committee appointments, committee assignments. One of those practices is that we do not keep the same position for more than 2 consecutive years. Now, some colleges, they have a chair for 30 and 40 years. I think this board has felt that it's important to turn the chair over to other players, other people. And yet, it's not just an automatic appointment that one would move into a chair or any of the officer positions. There are certain responsibilities and requirements for each of those positions. And so I'm sure and the nominating committee had that list of requirements and terms that we practice. So having said that, I would turn it over to Trustee Lindstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Schneider and I comprised the nominating committee. We did have the documents that you referenced. I do not have them with me tonight, unfortunately, but we made the nomination as you see in the packet. And Trustee Schneider, any comments from you?
No, not at this time.
No. So we would make the nomination of the slate as presented in your packet.
Let me just read that again, even though it was mentioned in the open forum. Officers would be Chairman Greg Musil, Vice Chairman Paul Snyder, Treasurer Lee Cross, Secretary Nancy Ingram, Management Chair Jerry Cook, Paul Snyder, Laura Smith Everett, Human Resources Nancy Ingram Chair, Lori Smith Everett, Learning Quality Jerry Cook Chair, Lee Cross, Audit Committee Greg Musil Chair, Paul Snyder, Collegial Steering Greg Musil Chair, Paul Snyder, Foundation Nancy Ingram Chair, Angelina Lawson, KACCT Nancy Ingram, and JCERT Lee Cross. I would say that, again, our practice has been that the chair and vice chair of the board also serve on the audit committee as chair and vice chair, so that's why they're in that position. And we also have the chair and vice chair chair the collegial steering committee. I guess I'm going to make an amendment to this slate, Trustee.
Before you do that, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Is Mr. Moyer still here? Mr. Moyer? You had made some comments in the beginning of the meeting as it related to women in leadership here at the college, and I want to address that briefly. We have had women serve as chair on this board in my tenure here. This year, our thought was that the vice chair would move to chair, and we had that discussion, the nominating committee had that discussion with Trustee Ingram. She elected not to go that direction, so our original intent was that she would be chair as she had served as vice chair this year. So I just wanted you to be cognizant of that, what Mr. Snyder and I had that conversation had taken place. Yeah.
Thank you.
My amendments would be that to that slate is to add Nancy Ingram to collegial steering for the sake of some continued stability. We can have up to 3, I guess, if we wanted to, because we have this. The problem with collegial steering is that when we change our officers in January, that's right in the middle of the year, then the Faculty Association will have an election. I guess all of the other organizations will have elections, and so by next August there could be new people. And in the spirit of trying to have some consistency with this new format, I believe that makes sense. I would also add the amendment that Laura Smith Everett be added to learning quality. In our orientation with Laura Smith Everett, she indicated a desire about that, and so I would make that amendment as well. My final amendment is I would remove Trustee Lawson from the foundation. Since our meeting in November, I've had a number of foundation people contact me, and in light of our other issue, which we'll be dealing with in board communications later tonight, they feel that that would not be beneficial to the foundation to have Trustee Lawson on the committee. So I would remove Trustee Lawson from the foundation. I would also say that in our board policy of ethics, when we talk about committees, it says the committee system is not intended to supersede the primary responsibilities and leadership role of the president and administration. And I think based upon some interactions that have taken place in those committees, there's the question that Trustee Lawson is not on a committee. We've had feedback that representation has not allowed for the efficient operation of the committees. When we talk about oversight of the college, there still seems to be a question as to what oversight of a trustee is, and we'll deal with that again in the board communications under old business. But I would make those amendments, and I would ask if there are any other amendments from this board to the committee slate.
Mr. Chair, this is Trustee Lawson.
Yes.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, please.
So I have provided to you and the press and Dr. Sopcich, the president, a sworn affidavit that I have made no contact with KBOR. So you're stating that these documents that were provided to the nominating committee were in result to this arrangement, and then removing me from the foundation and making so that I'm not on any committees or liaison is based on what substantial information?
Well, first of all, and I haven't seen your affidavit, but that will be dealt with in our board communication. I would say outside of the memo that seems to still be a question as to who authored the memo, I've received considerable feedback of your engagement on committees, and therefore making the recommendation that you're not on a committee based on the performance for the past 2 years.
What due process do I go through then at this point? What is the substantial information that you have? Who are the people that are coming forward?
I guess we'll deal with that in the board communication issue.
But we are voting on this issue right now.
That's correct. Trustee Musil.
So this board is voting on this information without substantial evidence? There's no due process?
Yes, there's due process, and there will be substantial information, but Trustee Musil.
Well, Mr. Chair, I am not opposed to holding the foundation liaison until we can conduct our old business, because I'm still interested in knowing if Trustee Lawson had anything to do with the letter that is at the main issue here, although not the only issue, and an affidavit that says I didn't send something to KBOR doesn't answer the question that we asked of all trustees last month, that all other trustees said they had nothing to do with it. Because my understanding is it didn't go to KBOR, it went to a KBOR member who gave it to the executive at KBOR. So I'm perfectly comfortable holding that decision until we get to the old business and letting Trustee Lawson explain herself to the satisfaction of the board.
Would you like to table the nominating report at this point for following old business?
I would move to table this till after old business.
Second.
If I may, Mr. Chair, we'll
Trustee
discuss
Cross.
later. Tabling means we'll discuss later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
After. Okay, the nominating committee report has been tabled. We'll bring it up after board communications. Treasurer's report. Trustee Musil.
I do want to respond at some point while Mr. Moyer's here to make sure we respond in addition to what Trustee Lindstrom had. So if Jay is staying around, then we'll do it at that point. Because I think our record is pretty darn good here as far as leadership on the board by women. The board contains a treasurer's report for month ended October 31, 2019. That was the fourth month of our fiscal year. We received property taxes of $1.3 million. The unencumbered cash balance at the end of the month was $83.5 million, about $4 million less than the amount last year at this time, and all expenditures are within approved budgetary limits So I would move to adopt the recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees approve the treasurer's report for the month ended October 31, 2019, subject to audit.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly report, Dr. Sopcich.
Thank you, Dr. Cook. You've all received the President's report to the board. The first page of this is about student success and engagement. I strongly recommend, if you have the chance, please review it to see all the incredible accomplishments that people are doing here, as well as the fantastic projects that are taking place every day. The last few weeks, if not the past year, I believe, has been one of the most interesting in the history of the college for a lot of different reasons. Personally, I can never remember when the college was falsely attacked and smeared repeatedly over such a lengthy period of time, or even a short period of time for that matter. Our reputation, the reputation of Johnson County Community College, is invaluable. It was rightly earned over 5 decades, and it is continued and advanced daily by those who work here, those who give their all in the pursuit of student success. Tonight, since it's the end of the year and the holiday season is underway, I'm going to take a few seconds to highlight some of the amazing and wonderful things that happen here every day and the way this campus community gives its very best to help its students. Now, please know that my sample size is going to be limited by the events that that have occurred over the last few weeks, and within that time frame, things that I remember or were brought to my attention. This report will in no way approach all of the accomplishments and acts of human kindness that occur here every day. So many kind and generous deeds are humbly performed without anyone even knowing about them. These are impossible to count. Our college is frequently recognized for its good work in the community. And for example, here's one instance that I reported last week. We were recognized by the Blue Valley School District as one of their Friends of Education. We were recognized for our collaborations, accomplishments, and shared vision with Blue Valley for what can happen in the future when we work together. This is an annual award, and we were one of 4 recipients. I'd like to compliment Drs. McLeod, Drs. Weber, and many of you in this group who have worked hard to try to develop this relationship that ultimately benefits our students as well as our future students. Many individuals who work here receive national recognitions. Here is another well-deserved one that just came in yesterday. Sherry Barrett was nominated by the Higher Learning Commission staff and appointed by the Higher Learning Commission Board of Trustees to serve on their Institutional Actions Committee that reviews recommendations made by the HLC site teams concerning accreditation actions. We've always mentioned Sherry's high standing in the Higher Learning Commission community. Here is recognition that further reinforces how fortunate we are to have her here at Johnson County Community College. But let's focus on students and student success, because that's what we're all about. 1 week ago, I believe it was a week ago, I was able to attend a poster session for a class which is called Course-Based Undergraduate Research Experience. It's Dr. Harvey's class. This poster session was led by Drs. Heather Seitz and Dr. Melanie Harvey. The poster session featured the work of our science students as they pursued their seemingly annual efforts on the identification of bacteria found in dirt samples collected from backyards, parks, and gardens. That's pretty good for a liberal arts undergrad, isn't it? Yeah. The thoroughness, enthusiasm, and pride of these students is inspirational. It's always a highlight at this time of the year, Dr. Harvey, to stand there and listen to those students explain their experiments. It's an exhilarating experience, so thank you. Professor Catherine Bales invited me to judge one of her humanities classes this year, their year-end project. The project was about world myths. The students presented on a variety of subjects from Halloween to Dungeons and Dragons to vampires and wolf people. I had the opportunity to talk to students about how different mythologies are ever present in a variety of ways, for example, including video games. The ebb and flow of these games are mind-boggling. The projects reflected the creative contemporary approaches to world myth. Now, I had never played a contemporary video game, or any video game for that matter. I have to say it was a terrific experience for about the 5 seconds that I could handle the stick before I killed the whole thing. I brought the game down, the screen went black in about 5 seconds. But I have to tell you, the students were amazing, the detail and the enthusiasm and the excitement and how they explained those presentations and the video games themselves. One particular video game, they actually had the original game that I think was featured in 1989 versus the current one today. It was really a great experience. I could have sat there for hours listening to these students explain this stuff. Now I know what I want for Christmas. I heard a terrific presentation in Cabinet the other day by Dr. Jay Antle and soon-to-be Dr. Christy Howell on the aspirations of our sustainability students in raising the standards of sustainability at our school and achieving even greater national recognition in the process. They really challenged the leadership team to give serious consideration to these ideas. And yesterday, Dr. Harvey mentioned this, Dr. Terry Easley Giraldo's Honors Leadership and Civic Engagement class presented a class project that proposed ways we could utilize our current capacity regarding AccuCampus, which is a student-focused app that we have to help address mental health on our campus. These students were over-the-top sensational in their presentation, their structure, and the depth of knowledge that they had about this topic. Lastly, Dr. Brian Wright's Model UN program includes 16 of our students who recently participated in the Model UN competition in Chicago. Johnson County received one of the best overall delegation awards for our exceptional representation of Argentina. They now would like to travel to Argentina, and hopefully the levy will go up 5.5%. We'll be able to make that happen. To put this accomplishment into context, other schools earning recognition for representing countries were the University of Arizona, Hendrix College, and the University of Missouri at Columbia. It's great to see our students compete at that level, not only just compete, but distinguish themselves. Kudos to Dr. Brian Wright. On a larger scale, when we speak of student success, this year 3,000 students earned degrees and certifications here at our college. Congratulations to those students, but also to the faculty and staff who, every day, play a role in their success. But let's talk about what this campus is doing to help those in need. After all, this is what the holiday season is all about. First, the JCCC Holiday Giving Tea. For those of you who may not be here or have been here, this was at one time called the President's Tea. And faculty and staff would attend, spend time talking to one another, and would enjoy the wonderful array of desserts prepared by our catering staff. It was always a fun occasion. We did it for years in the very same way. Collectively, and fortunately, faculty and staff breathed new life into the concept and transformed it into what we have today, the Holiday Giving Tea. It is the second year of this new event. Now, there are still the wonderful desserts, but it is terrific to watch as colleagues bring gifts and then wrap gifts at the wrapping table. Other colleagues are at other tables writing cards to veterans in VA hospitals. This year, we sent 175 cards to vets. At this event, we also collected 1,500 pounds of food, school supplies, and winter wear. We even sewed sleeping bags, which were gifted to an organization called Care Beyond the Boulevard, which distributed the sleeping gear throughout the city. So many people are involved. It is a cast of many. I would like to call out one, though, Professor Michelle Clark, who's in the science division. She brings an incredible degree of enthusiasm and said next year's will somehow be even bigger and better. Now, if you go up to Commons 319, you'll find a variety of ways that we are working to help others. This area, known as the Student Basic Needs Center, was started this year. The intent is to do what the title spells out, to find ways to assist students' basic needs when they are challenged. For example, the campus cupboard is our food pantry, which we've had for years. A student can get up to 15 items twice a week and fill their backpacks with school supplies. But we've added more services. Housing assistance, which can assist students who are homeless or currently at the risk of being homeless. There's someone up there who can talk to them and help them. Transportation assistance to help find reliable transportation for students via the UPass program, which allows free transportation on Ride KC or rides on microtransit within our service area, and when necessary, options for emergency transportation needs. The Career Closet helps students with career and appropriate clothing that can help make a student look and feel confident. And also, there is social services support, which provides assistance and advice about securing childcare, medical and dental care, legal assistance, and handling emergencies. These are all in one location up in the Commons building. And lastly, our recognized meal share program using our student ID CAV cards. This semester, we have close to 100 students utilizing this program, which transforms donated money through the foundation into food for all of our students in need. All of these services are the results of so many good people who in their spare time find the time to help those students at our school who need a little assistance. We are so fortunate to have such generous and giving people who work here at Johnson County Community College. Lastly, I would like to recognize the Foundation Office for their good work. Because of what they do, they directly benefit students with their ability to attend our college. Here is just a few of their accomplishments over the past several months. Trustee Musil mentioned Some Enchanted Evening. The gala, historically, in my days, would be fortunate to bring in perhaps $250,000. Under Kate's leadership and Rob Wyrick, they brought in $1 million this year, a first in our history, a record for the foundation. The Deffenbaugh Foundation established a $1 million scholarship fund to benefit students in career and technical education. For example, how does that work? Let's say the foundation directors decide to establish a 4% payout on this endowment. That means $40,000 could be generated annually in perpetuity. And that means 40 $1,000 scholarships or 20 $2,000 scholarships. These dollars go a long way here at Johnson County Community College. Believe me, these gifts, they don't happen overnight. They can take years. We thank the foundation for their perseverance in pursuing these gifts, which really are among some of the best across the country. So congratulations on those, Kate. Oh, and lastly, what this is all about, the foundation provided scholarships to 1,175 students, and I believe that's yet another record. I covered just a few of the accomplishments and good deeds over the past several months. I know that throughout this college, wonderful things happen every day when faculty and staff go the extra mile to help students in their pursuit of success. People at Johnson County Community College help one another, and they help members of our community daily. We reach out and extend the helping hand that can change a future, that can change a life. And that is what we celebrate today, the incredible and remarkable efforts that happen here every day to help others. Thank you. And that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Sopcich. Any questions or comments for Dr. Sopcich?
If I may.
Yes,
Chair.
Trustee Cross.
Last month when I was absent, I was at, as many people may know now,
Model UN.
the Model UN. Our Professor Brian Wright is on the board for the Kansas City International Relations Council, a board that had that evening, an evening to feature medical accomplishments and advancements done by the international community. That night, Ambassador Dr. Deborah Birx, a medical doctor who has been an ambassador appointed by every presidential administration since Ronald Reagan, to various posts, and they've helped fight HIV/AIDS and work to reduce that problem in the African continent that I believe the George W. Bush administration first declared a threat to national security. My point is this, that our faculty get invited and have those types of experiences. I had turned him down for 6 years and finally accepted his invitation to go to that event. So I apologize for my absence. But just to further the statements of Dr. Sobczak and the remarkable things that we do here are extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you. If you look in the packet under the President's report, again, you'll see an attachment of several pages of good news. I couldn't help but to pull out the item because we've had public comments in our forum about our, let me call, lack of attention to promoting voting on Election Day on our campus. And on November 12th in Washington, D.C., this college received the highest ranking it can receive for voting with the Gold Seal Award, which means that between 40 and 49% of our students voted. Now, when you contrast that to the general public, I believe the November election brought out, what, 23, 24%? 17%. So, Dr. Weber, I know that you were addressed personally in some of those open forum discussions about we weren't doing enough, but between you and our marketing and everybody else on the staff, congratulations. I thought that was pretty cool that we got the highest award you could get for student voting. Okay, that leads us to old business. And I would just say that in your packet, you have the memo that has created a lot of concern within our community. I would say that, and we were going to look into being the memo that was written, had a redacted trustee, although the memo said that this person was a trustee at Johnson County Community College, and it came to our attention from the Kansas Board of Regents. At that meeting, 5 of you publicly denied writing the memo. Trustee Cross was off the phone at that time and later sent a statement that he has publicly denied writing the memo. And Trustee Lawson, I communicated with you the following week that you were the only one that hadn't responded to writing the memo, and assumed that you had because of the details that were in the memo. We've also found that you were the only trustee that signed into the caves to look at the storage place for our art exhibit, which is our art collection, which is one of the items mentioned in the memo. I would say the other thing that's developed at the KACCT meeting this past weekend, the Council of Presidents, 19 colleges, and the KACCT Board of Trustees unanimously approved the following statement, and I'll read it for the record tonight. The Kansas Association of Community College, oh, by the way, this was in response to a request from the Kansas Board of Regents, because the memo had implied that oversight at community colleges was not appropriate. 2 community colleges were cited in that memo, and so the Kansas Board of Regents wanted to have a reaction from KACCT leadership, and here is their statement. The Kansas Association of Community College Trustees, KACCT, strongly opposes the views expressed in the anonymous letter from a Johnson County Community College trustee to the Kansas Board of Regents and others. The views contained in the letter represent the opinion of one person. Kansas Community College trustees are elected by the citizens they represent. A statutory framework exists to guide how each Board of Trustees must operate, and boards of trustees have access to any information pertaining to the college if the board requests such information. One trustee does not have the power to act unilaterally. The power of the Board of Trustees exists through a vote of the majority of the Board of Trustee members. Kansas Community College Boards of Trustees take their responsibility very seriously, always looking to make decisions to ensure the colleges operate as efficiently as possible to best utilize taxpayer resources and serve their communities. KACCT strongly opposes the views expressed in this letter and stands ready to discuss with anyone the facts surrounding Kansas community colleges and their operations. Approved unanimously by vote on December 7, 2019. So with that, Trustee Ingram, I would say that you had referred in the nomination part of our agenda that you had sent an affidavit saying you didn't send the letter to the Kansas Board of Regents. I'm not sure that's the issue. The issue is, did you or did you not write the memo?
You said Ingram.
I'm sorry, trustee Lawson, I'm sorry. You okay? Yeah. So trustee Lawson, did you write the memo? Trustee Lawson, are you there?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, but can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I think we have to be very careful how we handle these situations. I would like to point out that I was a vote for that KCCT measure. As the sitting KCCT liaison, I did vote for that. I want to make sure that as we have concerned citizens in the audience right now, you've mentioned the Johnson County student, Jay Moore, everyone who has concerns, and we've listened to them, and we make decisions that keep coming up in the mind. So I appreciate Trustee Musil's apology when he came out and was making comments in the public. We deal with the public in private statements. When our president was under fire in the public for statements back in February of this year, that is still cited in almost every article written about the college. I and others on this board defended him, and I encouraged no more audio recordings to be released, and the board in exchange renewed his contract. In both cases, those statements were in public. In both cases, I have not commented. I have been a defender of the college, and if you check the interviews, I backed our president in every single interview I gave. And yet with no absolute substantial proof of argument, I'm being judged right now. The college and the press have sworn affidavits that I have sent in. But instead, I have been judged and sentenced in a witch hunt. And it's only a few years ago when a trustee certainly slurred, the college and members directly. He faced no censorship, no results, despite his complete public comments. I am greatly concerned about this double standard, and JCCC knew about this letter by the measures since mid-October, and yet sat on it. It went through multiple board meetings until after the election, where they knew the results of those elections. I was informed by the press that the Cora request that they just recently gave, or asked for and received, that the college resulted in a document without email headers or any substantial documentation. I believe JCC is a great school. I don't think anybody has ever argued that. I look forward to the next 2 years on this board. I hope that we find our time to be, of course, more about the work of the people. And bringing up this repeatedly is certainly not helpful. I have been a proud contributor to the foundation, where I have recently purchased multiple tables, and I have made an effort to attend these events. I am very proud of my contributions to the foundation as it raises funds, and I have received recently letters from the foundation thanking me for my support and asking for more money. So this is where I stand.
Okay, so I need to ask the question again, because the memo implicates several different components of the college and the state of Kansas and community colleges outstate. Did you write the memo? Did you write?
I have stated that I have not sent anything to K-Board.
That's not the question. The question is, did you write the memo? Because the memo does exist. And did you write the memo?
Mr. Chair, I have not sent any letter or email to K-Board. I have not communicated with them. That is the cover letter that you have stated in here, that there was some letter that was sent directly to K-Board. I have an affidavit that says I did not do that.
Okay, I'll ask a third time. Did you write the memo?
Mr. Chair, this is not court.
That's correct. You're right there. Well, absent that, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to ask if any trustees have any comments to make. Trustee Musil.
I do. My question last month, and I don't know, certainly I didn't sit on this letter because I learned about it shortly before the October board meeting, maybe the day of or the day before. November board meeting. November board meeting. So if it's not dated, So I don't know when it went out, but certainly I didn't know anything about it, and I don't think anybody on this board did until immediately before the November board meeting. So once again, we have a suggestion, a hint, an implication that somebody did something improper, unethical, in this case related to the election, which with no factual basis whatsoever. We have a statement that in exchange for everybody not doing more damage to the college in February, we gave the president a contract, which is absolutely unrelated and untrue. And we have a trustee who will not answer the simple question and defend if she wrote this and believed it. There are processes and channels that could have been utilized that wouldn't have hurt this college. It wouldn't have undermined the credibility of these trustees. It wouldn't have undermined the credibility of other trustees and presidents at other colleges, which she named. It wouldn't have led to the KACCT having to take an action against one of our trustees. And I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of presidents and trustees at that meeting, apologizing that that portion of the meeting, this hung over that meeting. They come to our campus and we are their hosts. And hanging over it is the notion that a Johnson County Community College trustee is making allegations of ethical misconduct, policy misconduct, criminal conduct, including naming individuals on our professional staff who don't deserve to be dragged through that mud. Or if they do, speaking of due process, there ought to be some factual evidence. And what we received was a rebuttal of the factual misstatements, falsehoods, untruths in this letter from our administration. The letter indicates a lack of understanding of how this college functions, because we get appraisals of our art every year. And we know what they are so we can insure them. And we approve an insurance package every year. Bruce Hartman is available if you want to talk to him. The members of the cabinet are available if you want to talk to him. I don't know what the proper action is here, and I don't know what this board can or should do. But I think we need to send a message to each of us that our responsibility of board members is to be better than this letter, is to use the processes here and to build relationships of trust with one another, with our faculty, our staff, and our administration. And that if we have this kind of concerns, if I bring those to the chair, Dr. Cook, and none of these were responded to over a year, then I bring them to a public board meeting. The most ironic part of this whole thing is an advocacy for transparency. We need more transparency, but I'm not going to tell you my name. I'm not going to tell you who I am. I'm not going to tell you who I sent this to, because we don't know who this went to, right? We don't know if it went to KBOR or went to legislators. We don't know who it went to. So it is very frustrating that we're spending time and energy, and I don't know how much time it took to go through this and to respond with regard to all of the policies that we have. And I'll tell you what, when I pass a policy, I trust our professional staff to carry it out. And so when we raised our limits to $50,000 for disposal before the board had to approve it, I trust everybody in this room is going to do it right and not throw something away because it's worth $49,999. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing that our professional staff have to have that. And Dr. Larson spoke to it in September during the open forum part about how we owe it to the professional staff of this college to support them, to ask hard questions, to force answers from them, but to do it in a polite and courteous and respectful manner. There's just so much in here that ignores reality of what's going on at this college. And I guess I'll leave it there. I mean, there's $60,000 of art acquisition funds annually. Not true. We spend money for art acquisitions. Not true. It's donated. The contract bidding, we favor out-of-state vendors. This was the result of a July board meeting where we were challenged on a vendor that was allegedly out of state when we could have chosen a Lenexa-based vendor. The next month, we found out that the Lenexa-based vendor was headquartered in Chicago, just like the winning vendor had a warehouse in Lenexa and was headquartered in Atlanta. We were challenged on the human rights campaign ranking because the vendor who was the low bidder the previous year and was getting renewed only had a 20 rating. They had a 20 rating, as Dr. Larson reported the next month, because they don't respond to the survey, and that's what you automatically get. I looked last night on the human rights campaign. The second vendor that was being advocated for as the local vendor that really wasn't any more local than the other one wasn't even ranked by the human rights campaign. We can't function as a board if we don't have some basis in fact, if we don't investigate and present facts that we can evaluate as a board. And I'm going to do it now, Mr. Chair, and go on a little bit longer. I want to speak to the women leadership. It's ironic. I'm being indirectly criticized for being chair again. The first time I became chair, Stephanie Sharp, trustee, was vice chair and was scheduled to be chair. And she turned it down because of family and job situations. So I became chair. This time, Trustee Ingram is scheduled to be chair, and because of her family obligations and other interests and the time it takes, she has declined. But she's been vice chair for 2 years. She's president of KACCT with the support of this college. She chaired the management committee, with all due respect to those of us on other committees, I think is the heaviest lift committee on campus. Trustee Lawson was named chair of the Human Rights Committee as a brand new trustee, which is unusual. Anybody that was around here long enough knows Melody Rail, who as chair of this board did a superb job and was a superb board member. This cabinet that Dr. Sopcich has put together is the most diverse cabinet in the history of the college, both in terms of gender and person of color. And instead what we fight all the time is we use some reason like that to challenge a decision instead of the facts. And it's disappointing to me that we even have to discuss this. I'll shut up.
Trustee Ingram.
I had prepared some comments, and I'm going to go ahead and read them, despite the fact that we really don't have the denial of the writing of that letter. And that was what I was hoping for this evening. And I'm going to read it just as I wrote it. I'm not going to change anything at this point. I have pondered over this letter and read and reread it numerous times in preparation for the November board meeting. And now it's December. I will only speak for myself and have chosen not to discuss my remarks with anyone after rewriting them. I serve on several boards, one elected, several county boards, a district-wide Public Schools Foundation board, a social service board, and now will serve as the president of KACCT. I take my service seriously on all of these boards, as I know my fellow board members do. I respect their opinions, their input, and the decisions we make together, looking through different lenses to serve the greater good in all cases. And as I said last month, I did not write the letter in question. More importantly, I would never write a letter or as such or act in any way that would ever compromise the integrity of our college, which directly and ultimately affects our staff, faculty, administration, and in doing so, our students. In previous years, in an organization to which I was an officer as a student and remain active as a member today, we referred to actions such as this as conduct unbecoming. There were consequences when the individual behavior reflected most certainly on the organization as a whole, and I see this as nothing different. The behavior is not limited to this institution and is, quite frankly, conduct unbecoming toward the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees and should not be tolerated. As the president-elect, the actions in question, as we've already discussed, were responded to at a recent meeting held at this facility last weekend, and we will work together toward regaining the respect and trust of our sister institutions throughout the state. We now have staff and community members speaking out on behalf of an action that deserves the attention of this board. If we remain silent, we are no better for having done nothing in response. It has occurred to me how different the outcome would have been if this person has brought their concerns forward to the board chairman, which you just mentioned, Trustee Musil, or even shared their concerns with myself as the chair of the management committee. How I wish this person had spoken to a member of the board in advance of sending a letter that puts at risk so much of what we stand for together as a board, as an institution. This feels like blatant disregard for fellow board members, as well as the individuals named and those not named, but implied. And I have apologized on our behalf for the embarrassment caused on more than one occasion. and I know others have as well. Having to have this conversation is embarrassing to me. I am ready to focus on student success, which sheds light on all the good work being done daily by those same staff, faculty, and administration, and those within our community who are serving to inspire learning, transform lives, and strengthen communities in a county in which we are so fortunate to
She
serve.
said she was hung up on. Do I hit the green? Yes.
This, however, must be addressed, and now. I have no respect for this behavior or the actions.
Trustee Cross.
I really want to be concise because I think
Sorry.
No, it's not directed at anyone. I think a lot of good things have been said, and it's disappointing we're in this situation. Just to hit a few points as I have experienced them. I've had a lot of disagreements with this board, and I've enjoyed it immensely. The privilege and honor. I mean it. I mean the privilege and honor of being here and having some input and influence on policy at an institution I attended, my whole entire immediate family attended, and I love dearly. I know this board has been immensely flexible in my own life and career as I run a law firm. I've been privileged to travel and have a family commitment to maintain, and I know that Trustee Ingram, and my memory is that Trustee Lindstrom and I discussed me being chair 2 years ago, a year or two, I can't remember. And I declined, in part because of my commitments to the firm and to my wife, quite frankly. So I raise that. I know I'm a man, but I know that lots of people know our politics, and I'm just raising it for record purposes. So I appreciate the flexibility I've been shown, the collegiality. People I disagree with seeking my advice and input because I do tend to see things from a different perspective, and I appreciate how I have been treated. The history of women here, I'm not going to waste time going through all of the women who have served on this board, including but not limited to Carol Sater, who's a dear friend and mentor of mine, the first woman state representative, maybe Democratic state representative, excuse me, from Johnson County. Melody Rail, I went to law school with. She was chair of this board when I came on. I thought the world of Barbara Larson, Judy Korb, Karen Martley. I'm going to miss people, and I apologize, but that is to say, Henry Sandays is someone I count as a friend that Dr. Sopcich knew from his time in the foundation. He was our first ever minority trustee in this county. And, from Sherry Barrett to everyone else that is here, I really believe, whether it's Brian Wright or Jay Ansel or Deb Williams, Jeff Anderson, Vin Clark, all of the wonderful staff we have so many applicants because we are an elite institution. We get to pick, and we pick the best. And with respect to whether or not it's a minority or a woman hire, my father would say he wouldn't care. My politics are such that I'd like the institution to represent the place in which we live and an opportunity for all. And I think that this administration has done that. I'm beyond disappointed that this has happened. I think in my duties as a fiduciary here, I know that this language and what was written matches statements that both Trustee Lawson and Mr. Chris Reeves have said to me personally. I've been invited, as we all have been, to attend faculty association meetings. It was at the May party after graduation that Mr. Reeves and Ms. Lawson, Trustee Lawson, discussed many of the items that were in the letter with respect to concerns about ethics point and that we need a statewide system for ethics review of community colleges. And I'll say this, I have stood with this board every time with respect to local control. I deeply respect KBOR. I attended one of the member institutions that Trustee Musil calls the flagship, although I dearly love his school too. So I think the time and the management that I've seen here has been remarkable. The political environment that we've operated in has been immensely better over the last 3 to 4 years. But before that, I don't know that people understand, and some of it's necessary for checks and balances and control. I mean, we have a lot of different masters, whether it's the county or the state or KBOR. It's a delicate balance and a kabuki dance to keep everyone happy, and I don't mean to have my back to you all. But I wanted to just speak to, whether it's Chris Wallace or Rachel Maddow or Tim Russert. It was my favorite to look at someone and say, Mr. Madam, that's not a denial. I didn't hear a denial in there. I can't condone this conduct. I don't know what to do either. I share Trustee Musil's sentiment. It is confounding. I deeply respect her passion, her drive to be involved. I simply don't know what to do, but nor can I abide by it. And I thank you for my time.
Thank you. Trustee Snyder?
I don't have a lot of comments. I would just, I guess, in summation, say, this is a very disappointing situation for our board and for the college generally. I think one positive that's come out of it is to see everyone's outrage at this and band together and want to see something done. So I guess in that regard, at the appropriate time, I'd like to hear from you what options or recourses this board might have to attempt to remedy this situation.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Lindstrom?
I'm going off the board, and I'm trying not to be too vocal on this. I am disappointed. First of all, I am very pleased with the comments that were made by the trustees here tonight. I am disappointed in Trustee Larson's her unwillingness to either deny or acknowledge that she wrote the memo.
In response to Trustee Snyder, you heard my remarks in November, and those were phrased in the letter that I submitted as a cover letter, but there were 4 areas that I really am disappointed in. One is that I believe this trustee has really violated our code of conduct. We have policy 114.01 and a whole series of policies that talk about collaboration and how we work together and really emphasize the things that Trustee Musil talked about in terms of if we have a question or a problem, where and how we can go to get that resolved. And that really relies on trust, which, by the way, was a big item discussed at KACCT, to have open, respectful, trustful relationships with your colleagues and with the president. In my opinion, that has not occurred in this memo, violation of the policy. Secondly, I think it was a huge unethical representation of JCC, staff, faculty, and students and the entire college, our foundation, all of our friends that are on the foundation, and this community that has supported the college for 50 years plus. When we talk about ethics, the memo itself and how it was represented, in my opinion, is very unethical. I believe, thirdly, there was a lack of oversight behavior. The person that wrote the memo is saying that we need better oversight, both at KACCT. We want the legislature to adopt legislation so Topeka can have better oversight of the college. We have always maintained that local control is what this college has been successful on and what local governments would like to have as local control. And this oversight, I think, is violated by the author because this person refuses to meet with people unless there are lots of people around, and doesn't trust how that relationship goes, and does not promote transparency herself. If in this case it's Trustee Lawson, if she hasn't denied it. And then the fourth is the communication impact upon the college, which has all been referenced. This is known nationally. And so how does it impact our presidential search? There may be some that say, you know what, yeah, Johnson County Community College is ranked a pretty top college, but no thank you. I'm not going to take the time to deal with that Board of Trustees when they have that kind of disharmony. So I guess what is one of our actions, in going back to the policy, we do have a censure option within our policy. And I certainly, if the board is willing, I'll do what the board wants to do on this, but I certainly would entertain a motion for censure if that's what the board would like to do.
Is Trustee Lawson still on the phone?
Yeah, I think she's still on the phone.
Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to note that the policies we are all subject to were voted on unanimously by this entire board in January of 2018, the first meeting for Trustee Snyder and Trustee Lawson. So we made some amendments there. I don't think we changed anything with respect to 114.01 on duties and responsibilities of the board. I keep those in my notebook, and I go back to them once in a while, and I went back to them this week to look at them. There are a number of them that I believe arguably were violated. I did note, though, that for censure, we have to have a fact-finding process, and then written findings of fact before we can take that step. So I guess, as I understand it, we wouldn't take that tonight, but we would start the process. Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what I'm suggesting. Because I believe Trustee Lawson should have the right to defend or position her facts as well. But there would be a fact-finding opportunity. That's correct.
Well, I would move that we start that process.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I wanted to make sure we had the right language in the motion to follow the protocol. So if you would just, Nancy and I had looked at that just before this meeting to see if that went that way, what that language should be. So why don't you read that?
I'll go ahead and read that for you. I move that the board begin the investigation required by JCCC Policy 114.03, preceding a motion to censure Trustee Angelina Lawson.
Okay.
That would be-
May I just, to determine whether or not she should be, as
Yeah,
opposed to...
I think the part
Yes.
is to
Begin the investigation required by the policy.
I don't want to
Preceding a
make any
motion.
assumptions. here.
Right.
Preceding a
correct.
motion.
Yeah, okay.
Any discussion? We have a
Is that the
motion and a
motion?
second. I think Trustee Cross seconded.
But my only comment would be, unlike what is happening in Washington on both parties, I'm not prejudging a vote on censure. I'm looking forward to the fact-finding, but I think the longer we drag this on, the more damaging it is to the college. So I would be pleased to hear some contrition and willingness to move on, and I'll move on. But I haven't heard any of that yet. So I do not enter this with any enthusiasm.
Well, I think none of us do. This is not a moment to be proud of. I'm not aware of any time when we've had to do this with a trustee, but the time is now.
If I may,
Yes.
I attended the Chairs Academy in San Francisco for ACCT in October. And we talked a lot about censure is an unfortunate process, but at times a necessary one, because these actions are such that we can't condone them. And they're a breach of a bunch of fiduciary duties that I never thought I'd ever need to use in studying contract law, and also our board policies. So, not for nothing, and without revealing sources and confidences from people who have talked to me, there are a lot of angry people as a result of this letter, people named and unnamed, and we ourselves face, as I think Trustee Musil may or may not agree with me, we ourselves face some liability now as a result of this letter, as a result of, frankly, the rogue statements of a trustee. And so it's very real. We have liability, as I don't need to lecture this board, but I'm just making comments known for the public to understand that it's a dramatic embarrassment. This is a very small state of 3 million people. Things get around, things know what's being said and done. We're a leader in higher education in Kansas and in the nation, and I'll be quiet now. It is hugely disappointing.
Thank you, Trustee Cross. Any other comments? We have a Trustee Snyder.
Might I amend the motion or perhaps make a second motion? I would like the board to be able to write a letter, open letter to the community, interested parties, something to at least show our support.
Okay, I think that's
refuting the
separate,
letter.
though, from the censorship. We can address
Very good.
that.
And I think we have multiple motions on the floor.
So the motion is to begin the investigation on the censorship of Trustee Lawson, which would include a fact-finding period. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll begin that process. And now, to your point, Trustee Snyder, of a letter to the community, tell us more.
Well, I don't know to whom it would go to, but I think we need to show some affirmative support for this board, for the college, and to repudiate, what was in the letter. To do our best to it doesn't sound like anyone in the community thinks that anything in that letter is true, but I'd want to take it a step further and just show, we did have the letter from you as chair, but I think it'd be important that all the trustees sign something similar. And I don't know quite the form and fashion of what that, I would leave that to Dr. Sopcich and the chair to figure out, but, and if the rest of the board's not willing, understandable, but I would like to show that support.
Okay?
If I may, John Adams represented the British after the Boston Massacre, so it's possible she didn't write the letter, folks. So I think that would be why we need a fact-finding mechanism first. I'm not opposed to the letter.
And if I could clarify.
I know what I believe, but we haven't found facts yet, frankly.
Yes, but this letter would not have anything to do with trustee Lawson, just to show,
Correct.
It would refute the letter, not be
refute the
directed
letter.
at anybody in particular.
Be all right.
Well, I think that's a good idea. I don't know that we need to vote on it. We can draft a letter, and then the trustees can take a look at it and see if that's something that you agree to and we want to sign.
That would be prudent.
It's a good idea.
That brings us back to the table of the nominating committee, and perhaps now you all understand a little bit differently of why I made the amendments that I made. So the table is back on the floor for discussion, and the motion is to approve the nominating committee, adding Laura Smith Everett to Learning Quality, Nancy Ingram to Collegial Steering, and removing Trustee Lawson from Foundation.
You made that motion?
I made the amendment. I would like a second to that.
I'm happy to second it, and I just, one more comment, if I may.
Yes.
In my comments about, essentially, I was asked whether or not I wanted to be vice chair and later chair in that ladder. I raised that because, whether we say so or not, there's been a lot of discussion about the partisan nature of our races. I've worked for, yes, candidates of both parties on issues, mostly on the left. But I take a great deal of pride in the collegiality and the nonpartisan nature that we exist. So I say that, I had to tell people throughout this year that being chair of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees is not a partisan plum. It is something that is mostly a division of labor. And with all due respect to everyone involved or listening, many of us have frankly declined it. And that the differences I've had with these chairs, and perhaps the pain or the humor I've made them endure, whether good or bad, is it's still appreciated that I feel both Trustee Musel, Chair Rail, excuse me, Trustee Musel, maybe it was Cook, Musel, I don't know. But you all have done a fine job, and I appreciate it. And you've been fair in my estimation. And when there's something to, I think, complain about, I will. But I wanted to just say that, and I appreciate your fairness.
Your humor was painful,
Thank
too.
you. Trustee Lindstrom?
Mr. Chair, I would say that I would support your recommendation, your amendment, but I would also say it should be, in my mind, it should be contingent on if for some reason we find that Trustee Lawson did not do this and is not responsible for the memo, I would recommend that the slate remain as presented. So it would be a contingency, but I'm going to be gone, so.
Trustee Musel?
Well, it doesn't need to be a contingency. Our policies allow us to revise the membership of the committees through the year.
We can.
So we can do that. So
We can do that. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't believe we have any new business tonight. That takes us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a time where we vote on a number of routine items, unless a trustee would like to remove an item from the consent agenda.
If I may, and I think you have stated so, in the consent agenda, in the minutes from the previous meeting, I have denied writing the letter. I just would like the minutes to reflect. So I think, and then now be a good time probably to apologize to Terry Schlish. It was my fault. I thought I had told someone I wouldn't attend. I did not. It was a full-speed mistake, and I apologize to Ms. Schlish. And I appreciate her setting up the phone call, which will show that I had clicked off by the time.
You want to remove the minutes and talk more, or just make that statement that you're correcting the minutes of your
I'm trying to
attendance?
do it fast for you. Yeah, let's remove it and talk about it later. Yeah.
yeah, I think you better remove it and make the amendment.
We'll remove item A1,
Yes, sir.
minutes of the previous meeting. I'll have a motion on the remaining part of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item A1, the minutes of the previous meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I reincorporate my comments. I apologize to Ms. Slish. I thank her for setting up the conference call. I didn't write the letter. I said so publicly. And, you know, I mean, in this pre-printing press age of information, like everybody's got an opinion, everybody's got social media. I think how we handle this is immensely important. There's precious few people watching this, and, including my wife's not, and never does. So, you know, it is noteworthy that we be careful how we handle this.
Okay, so back to the minutes of the previous meeting. Are you clear that what Trustee Cross has said in terms of adopting the edit to the minutes? Thank you. All in favor of the item A1 signify by saying aye with those changes.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we adjourn the meeting, I would just like to thank Trustee Lindstrom for his service on the board. This, as he has indicated, is his last meeting, and he is pursuing some other activities. But with that, Trustee Lindstrom, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought it was probably, under the circumstances, it would be appropriate to try to end the meeting on a more positive note. So I have a statement I'd like to read. The approaching new year and final days of the old year are at this time particularly bittersweet for me. My work on Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees is drawing to a close after 7 years. My thoughts are mixed, but as Shakespeare said, parting is such sweet sorrow. The sweet part is no more conflicting Thursday meetings with the Kansas Turnpike Authority. And I thought the opportunity to slow down and do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, of course, with Mary's permission. The sorrow is the goodbyes and leaving the honorable responsibilities of Johnson County Community College Trustees Public Service. My time as a trustee has been truly a wonderful experience with twists and turns, fast and slow paces, sometimes wild and crazy, but always fulfilling and gratifying. Although I have thoroughly enjoyed my interactions on this board, and there are few things more challenging and more rewarding than public service, I believe it is time for others to provide their ideas, their passions, and their services here to our remarkable and outstanding college. I came to this position with a basic assumption that stakeholders expected me to represent their needs and priorities, to understand their values, to invest taxpayers' dollars wisely for future generations, and to continue to make this college a wonderful place to inspire learning, as Trustee Ingram said, transform lives, and strengthen our community. These obligations have guided my service over the years, and I hope my tenure leaves our community a better place for current and future generations. Perhaps most important to the success of any public institution is the active involvement and contribution of informed and active citizenry. You've seen that tonight. Johnson County Community College's success is a direct result of just that. Strong and vocal civic participation regarding institutional issues and pending decisions, resulting in the voice of democracy in action. I must express my appreciation to the selfless and dedicated service of our administration, led by Joe, our faculty, staff, volunteers, and especially my current and previous colleagues on this board. By your nature, so many of you are unsung heroes. Let me get a drink here. You do your jobs so well, work hard, and make Johnson County Community College a safe and function day in and day out. You do the right thing for the right reasons. You often work out of the limelight, but actually serve on the front lines, doing the hard work and helping our Johnson County Community College students and citizens who need it most. You are, in spirit and in fact, the hearts in hands of so much that makes our college truly great and among the best in the country. We recently celebrated the most American of holidays, Thanksgiving, a day of opportunity for those who believe in the higher power to remember our blessings and their source. It is also an opportunity to replenish and renew our own best qualities, our faith, our vision, and our resolve. Tonight, I end my service as a trustee with fond memories and head held high. It has been an outstanding experience with very good people, serving great people together, making Johnson County Community College better. It was easy to write. Words can be elusive, but as baseball's Lou Gehrig, who told his colleagues that he considered himself the luckiest man on the face of the earth, I've also received God's blessings as a son, a brother, husband, father, businessman, and public servant. It has been and continues to be an honorable calling with a vital mission and responsibility. To paraphrase Gehrig's words of what is already 80 years ago, I consider myself to be a tremendously fortunate man, especially from our corner of the paradise in Johnson County. It has been an extremely rewarding experience to contribute in any way to make our community better. Have a happy, safe, and holiday season and a new year filled with promise, hope, and goodwill to all. And to quote one of my favorite entertainers, thanks for the memories.
David, thanks again. When you become a U.S. Senator, you'll learn how to drink that water in between comments a little easier. For those of you that don't know David, and I guess as I've learned from him so much, we walked Kansas several byways. A very humble man, always gives credit to his other brothers, his dad, who's made a great sacrifice for all of his brothers to go to college. And David will say that he wasn't the most talented football player of those 6 brothers, that he had a couple of others that should have had and could have had the opportunity to play in the National Football League. But anyway, thanks for being on our National Football League, David. Any comments that anybody wants to make? We do have one last gift before Joe talks, and that is that Terry baked a cake today. So, Joe, go ahead.
Well, I knew that Dave was going to be an exceptional trustee when, after one meeting, he whipped out this very extensive spreadsheet and told me he was tracking every dollar that we were spending. It was very extensive. I remember that. But as a member of staff, I have to say that as a board member, Dave never grandstanded. You did not ever use this position to score political points. You never played gotcha with staff. You often would call in advance of meetings or talk to people on the side with questions because your intent was always in the best interest of this college and to help us do the best job that we always could. And so I want to thank you for that, your sincerity and your service to the public, not only on the county commission, but also for Johnson County Community College. We greatly appreciate you being here every meeting and doing what you need to do. Thank you.
So, Trustee Musil?
Well, I first got to know Dave when our daughters played on the same softball team. And I knew of him and he knew of me, but when you sit in the stands and watch probably 12 or 13-year-old girls playing softball, you get to know each other and you get a little sense of who they are. I've never seen, anybody in this room ever seen Dave Lindstrom mad? Ever hear him raise his voice? But did you ever doubt the conviction of his position? I mean, that's remarkable in today's age. I'm not going to look at you because I'm going to get emotional, but This is a special kind of public servant. I worked with him for 11 years on the Kansas Leadership Center board. The same thing, just quiet, thoughtful, rational, caring, passionate, enthusiastic, and he will be missed. So thank you, David.
I know the hour's late, but I like to answer questions. And you said, has anybody ever seen David mad? I have. We're walking one of the 12 byways we walked across Kansas, and I won't say where we were, but we happened to be at a state park. And on that particular day, David had his truck. And we went inside, and he asked the lady inside, is it okay if I park my truck here because we're going to walk a portion of this byway? And she said, sure, that's not a problem. So we walk the byway, and when we come back, there's a $15 parking ticket on his truck. And so he finds the person who was responsible for it, and he says, I just talked to this lady inside, and she said I wouldn't get a parking ticket. And this person says, yeah, but I'm the one that gives the tickets. You owe $15 ticket. And so that was the only time I've ever seen him angry, but his anger took us all the way back to Overland Park, so it was a long time. I would ask for a motion to adjourn, and then I think, Terry, we're going to have cake? Motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. December meeting is adjourned. Thank you.